And good morning from the West Coast.
And good evening from London.
Fantastic.
It has been actually surprisingly a very lovely day. For once it was not grey, it was fully sunny. But now I'm looking at darkness. My window's right here. Looking at No, actually, I'm not looking at darkness. I'm looking at you, Vinod. So my day is light.
Likewise, this is a great way to start the day.
Oh, thank you. I do appreciate that. So, guys, for context, Alex is in Sweden. I told him you can join, but of course I forgot that he was in Sweden. I think he said that at the end of the previous episode. He flew with BA, and of course BA didn't put the luggage in.
Of course.
This is not going to be an episode on BA bashing, but it's going to be a European episode. But first, let's play this little thing here.
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Do you know someone on Spotify? Do all your friends listen to Spotify, Vinod?
You know, that's a very good question. Because whenever I talk about podcast, I always do ask, like, well, where do you listen? And the first thing that comes out of their mouth is Spotify. But then when I secretly look over their shoulder, I see Apple. So I really don't know what people think.
You must have, this is one of the reasons you're back. You must have all your friends listen to Spotify, shares in Spotify, friends over at Spotify. You know Daniel Ek, the founder of Spotify. So you know how every year we get this Spotify rap thing where you get to your stats from the year, the songs you listen to most. So for Spotify for podcasters, which is a specific tool if you create podcasts on Spotify or simply if you distribute via Spotify, which is my case, we also get a Spotify rap. Your episode is off the charts.
Oh, come on.
On the episode 139, what was the most listened to episode of yours? How bigger was it than the others? Plus 900% or something.
No, come on.
I am not kidding, man. I don't know. Overall, guys, our traffic at layovers is mostly Apple. Exactly what you just said, Vinod. It's mostly Apple podcast by, I think, almost 70%. But on Spotify, you're my lucky charm. So, Vinod, every time you come in, I hope that Spotify keeps increasing because keep telling your friends.
That's good. Those are the buckets of cash that I keep quietly siphoning over to them, right? I'm glad it's paying off.
Yeah, it is. So before we get into the more proceedings, I'm going to play the music. Otherwise, every time I forget.
Yep.
Again, can I? That's for you. So yes, Vinod is back. Guys, if you haven't listened to episode 139, it means that you're not on Spotify because probably the entire planet Earth has been using Spotify to listen to your episode. Vinod is back. Last time you were telling us about the trip you've done during the pandemic, the two Olympics. And we said at the end of that episode that you were about to embark on another Olympic routing, this time obviously to Paris. And this is going to be a little bit the theme of the show, which is going to be a very European show. For some reason, I don't know why, I didn't realize that I don't think we have done any European shows this week, in terms of the name of the airports. I think they were all outside of Europe, which is, all the other seasons we got sometimes criticism, maybe not criticism, gentle criticism of people saying, oh, you're very European centric. Well, this year we were not. But before we go there, Vinod, you go there, last time as well, at the end of the episode, we stopped the recording.
We had to stop. We had to hold ourselves back.
and suddenly you say, oh, I forgot to tell you a story. I'm going to let you tell you what is the story because I was like, what? You had an even different job. You had told us about all your jobs you had in aviation. And then suddenly that job, which is also in aviation, but a bit left of field out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting you to be one of those. So go on.
I don't know. That was like leaving the carrot on the stick, right? Just kind of dangling there. Okay, bye. Yes. Well, in following that up, I told this wonderful story of all the different things I've done in aviation, but there was always more. So I think I had stopped working as active crew and all these kinds of things and got into real life. And once it's in your blood, and for all our advocates, we all know this, once aviation's in your blood, it never leaves. It's just not going away. So I'm sitting there in an office thinking, what can I do? What can I do? I don't have time and place to go and be a ramp handler or throw bags. I was like, what can I just do on the side after work?
That was actually on the side after work. You still don't know what it is, but I have the background. Oh my God. Okay, go on.
Now remember, I'm living in Vancouver, and the climate here is very much like London. Do we get snow here? Well, yes, but not like, the middle of Canada or like Norway or all these, where it's like months of like full on snow operations. So like,
by the way, how would I know?
You've never been to Canada?
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, go on.
So I started Googling and I found they were, and this is in, I don't know, October, November, that they were actively looking for people to come and de-ice aircraft.
It's amazing.
I was like, but isn't that a highly skilled job? Don't I have to go to de-icing university somewhere? I mean, if you look at the vehicles that these men and women are driving, these are not monster, but massive, serious pieces of equipment.
Yeah, right. You don't want to hit an aircraft with that. Yeah.
No. Wow, some scary stories coming here in a second.
Oh.
So I go and apply, and it was literally an interview in a hallway from this third-party company that does it here at the airport here, and say, "Yep, okay." And they asked, "Are you comfortable working in cold climates?" So when I told them where I grew up, they're like, "Okay, sure, hired." And I show up for this 2-day training, somewhat technical, theoretical technical training.
Yeah.
And the rest was meant to be on the job live practice with these trucks and aircraft.
I love live practice. Let's go shoot liquid at some aircraft.
Yeah, but because of the climate here, there's nothing to actually work on. So it's all just, you go out in a bucket truck and you kind of spray the ground. It was rather a bit silly. And the people that I was there with, that was quite the crowd. I mean, you get your sort of older generation lifers that are just sort of doing the service jobs, and all the power to them. Like the world beats with these all of these types, but a lot of like students, aircraft mechanical engineering students that are kind of doing this on the side. I'm like, okay, well, this is great, this is interesting. Anyway, not to make a long story too long, but eventually there's snow. And so I think I did about a week here and a week there, and in Vancouver, it's like sheer chaos and panic again. Like other parts of the world, it's like, oh my God, there's snow.
Oh, is that the same? That's because that's not the image someone like me would have of Canada. It would have been that you're prepared for everything. Unlike London, where as soon as there's snow, like you said, it's just sheer panic. They don't know how to drive. They forget how to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's the same in Vancouver. Oh my God.
In Vancouver specifically. The other parts of Canada, we're the laughing stock over here.
It's Wednesday.
But, yeah, but it's always green all year round. So, and eventually, I was harnessed up and in the bucket, spraying anything you can think of that rolls through here. 777s, 67 cargos, Q400s, nice. Maxes, 320s. But the crazy part I mentioned about driving these monstrous pieces of equipment, the people that, in my cohort, I was like, do you even know how to drive a car, let alone this, huge truck? And you're right, it comes like centimeters, inches, feet away from active aircraft and engines. Like, you really need to know what you're doing. I mean, I'm comfortable driving big vehicles. I've done it in different parts of life. So I'm like, okay, this is fine. I'm good. But, the person that's driving and you're up in the bucket, you have to have some coordination. And then, the guys that are in those sort of sealed up cabins, which is more the modern style, it's a one-person show. Okay, so they're driving the truck remotely from the top. So you really have to know what you're doing. But anyway, it was amazing. I would go after work, and you have to also be dressed. So you're in your full gear, and they give you all this stuff.
Of course.
Thick parka, and you have to bring your waterproof pants and all. And eventually you head out. Me being a geek, I had a GoPro strapped to me. A lot of it. Yeah, I have the footage. I don't know what to do with it. I got to do something with it. And it was awesome. Like, you have a Air New Zealand 777-300 there, and you approach the wing, and I guess typically people from New Zealand would not be de-iced.
Yeah.
And you start just blasting the liquid, the pink and then the green, and you're hitting those wings, and you can just see out the windows the faces staring like, what is happening right now? It was awesome. It was really good.
Do you have to, it's a silly question because I've never looked into it. Do you have to de-ice planes differently? Of course, the size is different of each aircraft, but are there zones of concern for every type of aircraft? or is it generally the same? You de-ice the same regions because you're not going to. We see. I mean, I see as a passenger. I see part of it as a passenger, but even from the terminal, you see that they're not de-icing the full plane. They're de-icing the parts, mostly the ones that move. So is that the case?
Yeah, it's going to be all things wing, all things horizontal, and then all things vertical. So the vertical stab or the tail. But there are a couple aircraft. Oh, and the one thing you cannot ever hit is the pitot tubes in the front.
Oh wow!
I mean, those are lower, but you wouldn't necessarily shoot at it. But there was one plane which you had to do a bit of a weird procedure. It was the Q400.
I was about to that. Oh, great! See, we think alike. I was about this must be because it's a prop. So is there a difference because it's a prop?
It is. Yeah, you had to approach from the front, like literally nose to nose with the aircraft or the truck, and then come up and above, and then shoot down, kind of forward fuselage middle, and then you come from behind. And then do the wings because you have the props.
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to shoot. that wouldn't quite work.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. So that was the only one that I did. That was different. So this whole thing, I mean, was one season, and as I started looking at the season, I think the snow is going to be done, but it's not always snow. I mean, it's frost. So you de-ice if there's even the slightest bit of frost, and we'd laugh at some of these airlines that come in and say, oh my goodness, I have to de-ice, and you look and it's like one fleck, but okay, it's fun. But the final plane, and it just kind of summed up the whole thing beautifully. I'm like, I don't think I can de-ice anything after this one, was Speedbird 84.
No way.
The 47-400 when it still flew here.
No way. Oh, that's
I even stayed late on my shift. I'm like, can I please do this aircraft? Because I have to tick this box. And it was majestic. The wing is just so big, and the number of engines, and it actually took all the trucks, because I mean, not that Vancouver has that many trucks, but I think it was like a 6-truck operation.
I'm sure.
To do that one. Wow. It was beautiful, and you just clean the plane up, and it's there. You want to have like music playing of some sort of salute, but it's just in my head. So,
but but you know what? That reminds me what you just said. Music. I remember. I've had like you probably have had experiences like being in a plane, being de-iced in many parts of the world, like. In Europe, mostly the Nordics, of course, like Copenhagen or Helsinki or Oslo, etc. Of course, in Switzerland as well, Zurich a lot, Geneva from time to time. So, and in Japan, Hokkaido, in Heathrow once, and it was an ugly operation, almost like forgotten bit of the run of the taxiway.
Person there with a hose, kind of thing.
Exactly. But the one I will always remember, and that was triggered by you just said music, is Astana. Kazakhstan, which Astana is a weird place not because of the buildings or whatever, because of where it's located, because in the summer it's Dubai, in the winter it's Siberia, so that's the kind of weather you have. So I've only been in the winter myself, and it's always been like minus 20 Celsius. It's always been super cold, icy, and also very windy, because it's all open steps, the step with 2 PES at the end. So there's the air just blasts through, and the freezing factor is
really gets to your bone.
Yeah,
right?
exactly, to your bone, no matter how you're dressed up. But on the aircraft, I remember it was Astana. It must have been a 6-7, and it was early morning, and I could see through. So the window of my the 6-7, I think I was in row 1 or 2. The window was half filled with snow on the outside, obviously, so I couldn't barely see, but I saw all these trucks moving together, whilst at the same time in the background there was a lot of the trucks that were actually removing the snow, plowing the snow away from the runway, the taxiway. And that was a dance. That was literally like, and I was thinking the music was da 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 da. Like I was seeing all these things moving in perfect harmony in front of me.
Yeah.
Do you know what is my favorite Winter Olympics sport to watch? It's ice dancing.
Oh, wait. I was going to say figure skating by ice dancing.
Exactly. Ice skating, ice dancing. And this is exactly what it was. It was like seeing these guys, and they were snowing at the same time, and then starting blasting the
so iconic.
Is it the propylene glycol they use or something like that? I think it's
it's an alcohol.
It's an alcohol, exactly. And so it was just beautiful. There's 2 types. You just said 2 types.
There is, yeah.
Depending on the temperature or the aircraft.
Kind of. There's de-ice and anti-ice. So you have to clean the wing first with the Type 1, which is the pinky orange one.
Yeah.
And then if it's actively snowing, then you put that neon green goop, which is Type 4. And that's the anti-ice. And that's what basically sits on those wings. I mean, as you're, it's, you know, if you haven't done it already, and you're at a window seat, on takeoff, you see all of it bleeding off.
Bleeding off, yes.
So when the time the aircraft is in the air, it's all gone. There's no trace of it sitting there. It's fascinating. And the stuff comes, it's hot. It is very, 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 it's hundreds of degrees hot. So you don't want to be like in contact with that. But that's why it's like all this big, huge dramatic smoke show because the temperature.
Yeah, that added to the scene I was just describing. All of this made this, you know, the alcohol being blasted, the smoke coming out of the aircraft.
The alcohol being blasted. That's a great line.
In my mouth as well, because there must have been the last flight I did in 2019. So I was like, oh, the hell with it. I think it was on Christmas Day, actually, or something. These scenes are rare for those who do not live in the Nordics, basically. Right. But these are beautiful. It's true that the color of these two, not that you say, these two alcohols is not very appealing. I wouldn't want to drink any of that.
No. Yeah, I mean the green's like a chartreuse, I suppose. But
exactly. Chartreuse, absolutely. Yeah. So, anything else on the de-icing, or can we? I don't know if you wanted to share.
Yeah, it's fun. It's de-icing. It's critical. You know, and you know, I'm the type of person that watches all these like air disaster shows and the number of cases they have of contamination on the wing and all these things. It's quite amazing. And if you have to, you know, when you're thinking about your forward travels, you really have to think about it might push back on time, but is that actually going to take off on time? Because have you built in de-ice time?
Top, yeah. It's true that when I was commuting, when I was doing layovers in the Nordics here in Europe, sometimes I would find cheaper tickets flying with SAS or Finnair. In the midst of the winter, sometimes I was thinking like if they were giving me like an hour I'm like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Like if I knew that I had to be on time at another destination, etc. You think about these things, yeah. Not overly, but I would totally think about
especially
them.
Like these power hubs in the US, like a LaGuardia and JFK, like the lineups. It's just, and there's no option. You can't not do it.
You cannot. Actually, yeah, it's true. I've experienced actually, of course, de-icing Denver, JFK. Somewhere in the north, I forgot. Actually, it was in an airport. I remember it took forever, but yeah, it's a symphony. It's a symphony of alcohol. I guess.
I wish I could like be in something like a Denver where it's like kind of up in an open field. I wish I could have a camera position. I don't know, maybe like 200 meters back in like a fixed spot, in a symmetrical spot, and just watch these aircraft come in and like these arms of like these trucks come in, kind of like the whole symphony thing.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Out, and then the next one comes in and out and do like a stop motion. It'd be quite something.
And here's an idea, if it probably has been done, but here's an idea for any airports that know this type of weather. Where they do the cannon water salute for an aircraft that enters service or leaves service? They should do that with one side the green, one side the orange.
That'd be amazing.
That would be really fun. Anyway, so away for winter, even if for the midst of it, I should say, we're recording this on December the 19th, 2024. So just a week after I recorded the previous episode with Alex, who's not here today, about Nepal and Ukraine. But this will only be released. I don't know why I say that, because by the time you guys listen, it will be very obvious. But it will be released either the very, very tail end of 2024 or as the first episode of 2025. And so to move away from winter, let's go to summer, because you had a summer full of travel. As I just hinted at earlier at the top of the show, you were here for the Olympics, but not only. So it's a very European summer. So I don't know where you want to start with the story. The only thing I know is that I loved the Olympics in Paris. They were beautiful Olympics and really incredible, truly. Bravo la France. I loved it. So I will at some point want to know how it was from the inside, because of course you were working in the Olympics broadcast system. So, but go on first. How did you get there, etc.? I'll let you start your story.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the Paris Games were definitely one that we were all looking forward to, because all things pandemic were not
Yeah.
applicable in that sense.
Finally.
Yeah. So yes, the travel route, it was a very simple one to start off with. It was simply Vancouver to Paris, Charles de Gaulle. Company booked the ticket and it was going to be on Air France,
Nice.
which I was really looking forward to. So when I had booked it, I had already put myself into premium economy.
Nice.
So I was like, okay, all good. At that point, at the time of booking, the price to go into business was really quite high.
Yeah.
It was like thousands and thousands. But yeah, typical. But let's see what happens. And sure enough, when I got to that the 24-hour check-in mark, go on the system, it's like, would you like to upgrade? I'm like, oh yeah. And I saw it was like only 3 digits, not 4.
Oh, that's a good start.
It was very economical. It was
That's nice.
It was a few hundred euros.
Oh, that's worth it. I mean, on long flights because how long is a flight?
9 and a touch.
I was about with 10 hours I would have quoted. So so that's for those kind of flights. If you can upgrade yourself for that kind of money, I would do it any time of the day.
It was so I picked it and picked something it was like 2D or something.
Nice.
Another colleague of mine was also on the same flight. His company had booked him in business. So fantastic. We do the YVR lounge tour, which made me realize something very interesting of how these lounges cater to the passenger profile. So here in Vancouver, we have a lot of Asia outbound flights, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Gateway, Pacific Gateway. So the Air France Sky team is, they have a lot of Sky team operating out of Vancouver because you have all the different Chinese airlines and whatnot.
Yeah, of course.
Korean and such. So we go into that lounge, and the first thing, it's a beautiful lounge. It's kind of one of those upper terrace type structures.
So it's an Air France lounge or is it a Sky Team
it's a generic Sky team.
Generic Sky Team, okay.
Yeah. It's still operated by a third party, but it's been claimed by Sky Team. So that's a funky name.
This is ours now.
Yeah. And so it's one of those ones where it's open air and you kind of look over a glass window and you see like the main sort of thoroughfare of the terminal, all just bustling underneath. And it's very nice. So we go in and there's like this huge lineup for something. I'm like, is that the lineup for the food? What? Okay. I mean, I wasn't terribly hungry at this point. It was a midday flight. So find a seat, get a glass of Prosecco. Fantastic. Cheers. I need to go find out what this lineup's about because clearly I'm missing out on something. The people were lining up for bowls of noodles.
Oh, wow.
That's simply all it was. And if you look at the demographic, it was an Asian demographic.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
Like, and they're there pumping out these bowls of noodles of steam. And I'm like, but aren't you flying somewhere where you're going to get the much better version of this? So it was quite neat. Everyone's so excited about the noodles. So anyway, the lounge part was fine. I mean, Vancouver lounges are, like any other experience, really.
Okay.
But the part that gets so exciting is the minute I boarded that aircraft in door 1, I felt I was a business class passenger on Air France.
Nice.
Like, I don't know what it was, something about that cabin. And I was doing all the checking because, they're still upgrading a lot of the 777s into the new business class cabin.
Yeah. So it was a 777-300 you had?
333. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's right.
333. Yeah. And when you say because there's 3 concurrent one business class, so they're doing the refurbishment right now. You have all access, right? Or
yes, yeah. No, fortunately, the aircraft I had was upgraded.
Oh, cool.
It had sliding doors and everything.
You had the sliding doors, because there's a version of that seat similar without the sliding doors, but it's still a more modern and not the one that you had 10 years ago. And there's 232 or something. Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is a friend of mine had flown a month earlier out of Seattle, and it had that old 232 with the small screen and everything, cream color. But
you know what? I think I said it sometime in the history of this podcast. My first ever business class long haul flight was with Air France. And it was that seat, the 232. So I will always have this very fond memory of that. Yeah. There's for me, and also of Air France. And Air France has always been, And I've traveled a lot. That was the airline I was using when I was living in Japan to come back to Europe. And they were, like you, I felt very valued very quickly. But then again, I hadn't flown a lot of business class before. So, of course, I was like, I'm the king of the world right now. I remember the first time I saw, they were starting to do the service. And I think I was in row 2 or something. And I see the flight attendant, she was coming with, when they opened the tray for you and they put the sheet on top so that you can have the tray. And I didn't understand what she was trying to do. She was like, why is she opening the tray? Why does she have this cloth of...
What is happening?
What is happening? So
Are
I was
you
trying...
chop my hand off?
Because I was trying to be helpful, but I was completely in her way. Trying like, what is she? No, of course, I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm going to, like frequent flyers do. You open the tray just before they arrive to be nice.
Yes, yes, exactly. You pause your movie, go through all the motions.
Right? This is what you do. That's etiquette. I didn't have any of that. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted. So you had a feeling of being valued as a business class premium passenger right away. That is actually nice when you have. And
you know what kind of tipped it off, and then we talked about this in the last episode. The smell on the plane.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it was beautiful. I felt like I'd walked into the department store, the perfume aisle. I'm like, why does it smell so wonderful in here? What's happening to me? Are they like,
nice.
Putting like the Batman, like the spray on me or something? And it was like, beautifully stark white, minimalistic with like pops of color.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It was so nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, I had a wonderful, wonderful flight. The seat experience, the audio, the IFE, and just the service just had that touch of class that I hadn't experienced from. I mean, the recent business classes were Air Canada and a few others, and I mean, there's Q Suite that's happened in the last few years. But something about the Air France experience was just had that panache.
Exactly, panache, French chic. There's something to that same experience back in the day when I was living in Japan, in Tokyo. I felt I was in France. I'm not French, but I felt I was in France as soon as I was stepping into the aircraft. Of course, that's enhanced by the fact that I speak French. So obviously
yes.
I could, but also, like you said, there was something in the air. And of course, when you are as well, when the food is being delivered, it has this kind of French touch to it. It's very good. I always appreciated the service and the elegance of that.
Elegant. I think that's the great way to sum it up, is the elegance. Yeah. And you're right. The food delivery, when they came to bring the cheese selection, just being able to describe the cheese. And then when they bring the wine, being able to describe the wine and, which one we should have and talking about it, was just like, you just kind of sit there like, yes.
It makes sense.
Tell me more.
That's wonderful. I like that. I do appreciate that as well.
And the size of the seat. I mean, I know you're taller than me as well. I was able to lie out. Usually the length is fine on a lot of these pods these days. Yeah. But when you have to turn, and I'm not that small guy, like you have to do your turn, you're kind of just doing this barrel roll. The Air France seat, something about it, there was no issues with space.
That's nice. That's nice to know. I only had the previous one without the door, and I felt it was the length, which for me can sometimes be not the length itself, but I know we have a few very tall people listening to this podcast. The feet cubicle at the end can be a little bit narrow, which, you try to move your body and your feet don't follow. They don't move because they're stuck into that. Exactly. So you either get with a broken ankle or you have to remove them, which for me is actually, since you mentioned the Q, is actually a little bit of an issue with the Q Suite. It's long enough, but the way it's made means that every time I try to move, I hit my knee on something because I slightly have to remove my feet. These are details that most of our listeners don't care about, probably. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all.
So maybe on that new, I will experience eventually that new Air France business seat. And actually, it's part of a trend, So Air France has improved. They're not revolutionized. They've improved on the previous iteration of that business seat. Like the Q, since we just mentioned, I don't know if you've seen the latest Q, but the latest Q is the same, but better. But it's the same, but better.
It's the same.
Exactly, right?
For the unknowing eye, it'd be the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like Emirates is doing currently, it's the same that the 380, but better. So, which is cool because when they are good seats, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so the flight obviously uneventful and all was fine, but I think I had my payback at the very end.
So, what happened?
Like I said, I was in seat 1 or 2. Anyway, point being very forward, front end of the plane.
Yeah.
So all the way across, and we must have landed at the furthest runway. I didn't have time to look it up just now. The furthest runway possible from our arrival gate.
There's these 2 external runways that are very far. There's 4 runways in Paris, and the outer ones, if you want, can lead to a little bit of a
drive.
Yes, like it takes a while. Not an Amsterdam long while, but still a while.
So we went on this drive, and I ended up getting motion sickness because as this plane is literally driving all the way, it's bobbing up and down, up and down. That front nose wheel gear suspension is just slowly just bobbing you along like on a boat that's not secured. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, why am I feeling like this? What's happening? No. Oh no. And I'm pretty good. I mean, I don't get motion sickness terribly easily. This one was starting to get me going. I'm like, oh no. What? I was actually looking for the bag.
No way. Wow.
It was really like the captain was going at a pretty good clip too. So that maybe was part of it. But just, the woes of being up in the forward cabin. It's just, you're subject to the suspension bouncing you slowly. But eventually I saw the turn coming to pull into the gate. I'm like, it's over.
You're safe.
Yeah. And then it was into Charles de Gaulle in Olympic mode, which is always a cool part of the operation for any passenger that's going through, the long hallways. We had to take the train, the long hallways, the long walks to get through, and all the way. And this is where kind of the whole experience of the summer, and I only realized it when I kind of thought about it in hindsight, the Parisians in Paris and France didn't like blast the Olympics in your face like some cities have done. Okay. Sometimes you go and it's just like Olympic everywhere, and you're like, the rings and the mascots and like the slogans and the songs, which is all part and parcel to when you have a world major event. But somehow Paris, and generally, though this applies to the entire games experience, just kept it at a perfect level, it seemed, where if you wanted to engage in it, it was all there for you. But if you had no interest or you need to step away from it, you just turn a corner and it's not in your face.
That's good. Okay,
and Charles de Gaulle kind of did this as well. Like there were signs of Olympics, there was signage, there was this and that, and it was in the right spots, but it wasn't over the top.
That's good.
That's great.
Again, that elegance for French, probably.
Yeah.
That's good. And you didn't have to do the whole, Narita rows of chairs to move left and left.
That's right. No tests, no waiting.
Listen to episode 139 because that's quite epic. Well, so that was much easier, I guess.
Yeah, it was a straight lot of walking, and now is a Canadian passport amongst a few small select are able to access. I guess it's an e-gate type of queue.
Oh, yeah. Like here in the UK, you can, US, Canada, there's like a handful of passports that can use directly the biometric, basically, gates to enter the country. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. We had the business class, we had everything going for it. So, point being, through immigration, the split second.
Nice.
But, Paris, I love you, but Charles de Gaulle, your baggage delivery, boy, did we wait a long time. For the time I've been going through that airport.
The luggage were seasick from the truck.
Yeah, that's right, from the bobbing, right? It was almost half an hour, I think.
Oh, that's long, yeah.
It was a long way. I mean, it's okay, we had priority in the bag. It just came out in the first round, but goodness gracious. Yeah. So that was the flight across. And then it was, you come out and there's world there.
You probably were a 2E or something. Was it? Did you see a lot of works, or had they finished? Because I was traveling to Charles de Gaulle just before the summer, so June, basically, just before you. and there's a lot of works being done in Terminal 2, so they're upgrading it, obviously, and some of it has already been done. It looks really good, which, hint, hint, Heathrow, do something. And but it was like, I think, A, B, C, D, and like, I think A and C were not closed, but under like major refurbishment, and the two others were open or something like that. Did it feel at all any worse, or did you feel like everything was just open?
Everything felt fine.
Okay, good.
In the experience I had. Although now that you made me think about it, in that long immigration walk, I remember being detoured a little bit in terms of the path. So that might be part of
maybe
what it was,
part of it, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And probably I cannot, of course, be sure, but you might have arrived at the gates, because you mentioned the train. They always made me giggle, because I used to, as I said earlier, traveled with Air France to Asia. The gates are called the gates KLM, and for me, it was like, this is purely foreshadowing of the
What's
merger.
about to come.
Because it's been years, it's always been the gates KLM, and I was like, KLM. It was like a kid, I would giggle. KLM, that's another airline, and yeah, that's foreshadowing. Yeah. That's they're making good improvement. I think there's even a new metro line that will arrive. They're building like, I don't know, like 25,000 metro lines currently in Paris, which is great. Again, hint, hint, London, do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there will be a new metro line to Charles de Gaulle. So they're really doing, they're doing a good job. It's I know people still hate it, but 10 years ago, I used to not hate it, but I had not like Frankfurt type of relationship, but type of like it was dysfunctional. But the more I've been, the better it has been. I appreciate that airport. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then, I guess you two, where were you guys staying at? I don't even, because
I was based at the Bercy Arena.
Paris was this odd Olympic where there was not like a proper site. I mean, there were sites, but there are like so many sites around the city. So I was wondering where. So you were Bercy. Oh, okay, I see. I've actually been
so not too far off from center, and the hotel was actually walking distance, which is rare. Usually we have a whole bus operation to move the crew and all this kind of stuff. It was wonderful. We got to walk through a garden every day, and it was fantastic. I was very fortunate to be in sort of central Paris. A lot of my mates were all over the place and out and around, so they didn't get that kind of experience. But Bercy Arena was the home of gymnastics.
Nice.
And then we flipped and did basketball finals.
Oh yeah, I remember that
a double venue. So it was a bustling venue. It was a lot of high pressure because all the celebrities come, and they want to see, and all things Simone Biles.
Yeah, of course.
All of that happens there. But it was wonderful. It was a nice part of town to be in. There's this thing called Bercy Village, sort of a new build of shops and restaurants and things.
That's cool.
But there was one thing that I noticed when I was, in the weeks or months prior, Googling and seeing, where am I staying? What's around? And maybe, I don't know. I think, the algorithm that we'd have no idea who controls, the matrix, popped this up on my Google Maps saying something called, I think it was Avia Sim. I'm like, what's Avia Sim? Like literally a block from my hotel.
I know where that is, man. I actually know where that is.
Right? Flight simulator. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I'm going to get fired because I need to be sitting in the simulator all day and not doing my job. So I'll tell you about the simulator in a bit. But no, Paris did an amazing job putting the Olympics on. And like I said, it was elegant. It was there in your face when you wanted it at the venues. And they did a great job of utilizing existing space, whether it be historic or non-historic, turning them into venues.
Yeah, that was the thing that was very impressive from my point of view, just watching it on the television, right? It was the venues added to the gravitas of these sports events. Some of the stuff are like, what? With the fencing and the, of course, I don't really watch, horse riding, but it's a Versailles.
You're
like, what? Exactly. Who else can do that but the French? I mean, there's no way. Even London couldn't do this, and not that they're unwilling, but there's And the best was the best. The views were the
beach volleyball.
The beach volleyball, exactly.
Oh, that was just
wow.
What do you say?
Exactly. What do you say?
Iconic, absolutely iconic.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, no, they did because like London, they had to build this external park, and in Brazil they had to do the same thing. So
yeah, which is what usually they do, right? They do a Parc Olympique, a Olympic Village, and then they build a stadium, and which is very nice. I mean, the ones in London, I love those games. By the way, I was here, right? So I've seen them. Just that was a bit out there what Paris did. I don't think anyone will try to replicate it because there's just no way. It must have cost like hundreds of millions to actually achieve that as well. So, but that was a great publicity, a great window of Paris in France. It
was. The opening ceremony, how they did this thing on the river, was fantastic. And what was a lot of public didn't see is the security that was in place to make that happen.
I'm sure
it was unbelievable. Like it really felt quite safe. Like, you mentioned this in the last episode. Walking around Ukraine, like the soldiers with the guns, kind of just like hanging out next to you. In Paris, there were soldiers with guns. Yes, there were police, all armed, but they had smiles on their faces, and you did not feel necessarily threatened that they were about to like turn and you might get caught in some crossfire necessarily. They were there helping, being friendly. It was quite a nice atmosphere that they were putting on. But the river had to be locked down a week prior, and basically cleaned out of people and access and zones. Fortunately, I had a certain level of access, so there was one point where I was able to stand in and around the Notre Dame on my own with nobody around me.
Oh my God, I'm jealous.
Hang out. I was like, what? This is
oh my God, I'm
unreal.
Jealous. That would be, as a photographer, I'm jealous because these are the type of thing I would never be able to photograph with anyone. Besides maybe during COVID when people were stuck at home, but otherwise, wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. No, what was also weird though is, I mean, this happens with a lot of places. London, this happened where, the local people think, oh my goodness, it's going to be terrible. I'm going to leave because they think the traffic and half of Paris left. So it was quite quiet.
Yeah, but London was exactly the same. As I told you, I was here, and I remember the brouhaha, like, oh, it's going to be impossible to take the tube. It's going to be impossible to move around London. So people left, and then I was like,
they had FOMO.
It's eerily empty because, maybe also the usual tourists that would come just to visit Paris, or in my case, London, avoided it because they said, okay, well, this is the Olympics, so this time we're going to go somewhere else. So it was like, there's no one here. That was actually very nice.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
Being in Paris that long made me realize that the footprint of Paris is not actually that large.
It's tiny. It's very compact, tiny, man. Exaggerating, but it's a very compact city.
When you go into like your Ubers and all, you see, everything's like 1 kilometer, maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah,
like, really?
Yeah, it's more walkable than in Berlin or London. Maybe Manhattan, of course, but Manhattan is just part of New York. But yeah, it's quite the footprint is quite. You're right, it's quite small, I think, and it's lovely to walk around actually. Yeah.
So it was a wonderful 5 weeks
Nice.
being there and integrating and bringing my French back online a little bit.
The basketball finals were great, by the way. I just want to say
it was the energy in the room. It was electric.
I could feel it from the television. I watched those and it was like, wow.
It was ear piercing loud.
I'm sure.
When the cheering was going on, it was so good. So the simulator thing, I need to do this. And this is where things got a little bit complex. So I simply go online and I'm reading the site. I'm like, okay, book here, and they have a number of different options in terms of locations, but I didn't know that at the time. So you go and you purchase, a package. So I booked like 90 minutes or something, or maybe it was an hour. And the way that it was worded was very confusing because it said select your airport. I'm like, oh. So in advance, I can select, maybe they will program the simulator to the airport of my choice. And you go in and there's Charles de Gaulle, there's Rossi, there's a whole gamut of things. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just go with Charles de Gaulle because I'm here and it's big and it's cool. Fine. What I actually ended up doing was booking my session at Charles de Gaulle, not at the Bercy location. I'm like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. So now I'm like stuck there. I'm like, I can't get out there. What do I do? So then I had to have one of my staff call, can you move? Because basically what I did is I had bought a voucher. And then you have to claim it. So then they're like, oh, well, let's do it at Bercy. And then there were no times available. And I wanted to, you could do a A320 or a 37.
Okay.
So I was a bit indifferent. So in the end, long story short, I ended up having to go all the way out to at an airport hotel at one of the Ibis hotels outside of Charles de Gaulle.
No, you actually did that.
That's where I had to go.
No.
And I found out these are stationary sims.
Okay.
They're not full. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
So I go into this hotel. And I'm looking. I'm like, where am I supposed to find this thing? And I saw one sign there. It's like obvious. I'm okay. So I go down. It's kind of like in the bowel of the hotel, sort of a small, tiny conference center. I'm looking around. I'm like, where's this thing? Nothing. So I go back up, and I'm there on time. Like there's no human being sort of looking for me yet.
Yeah.
I go back up to the front desk. I'm here looking for the AVSM. I'm like, booking. Oh, well, maybe just look at the sign and call that number. Well, okay. You were very not useful. So I go back down, and then there was another hotel staff around saying, hello, looking for this. And then they kind of start opening other door. I'm like, how do you not? It's not like these guys just moved in 2 hours ago and you're not sure where it is.
No, it's a hidden operation, man. They took over. They claimed the room without telling the hotel.
It kind of felt that way. And finally, they find someone like, oh, yes. Come this way. And they open a big door and boom, there's a dark room. There's a full-on sim and there's a man there waiting for me.
Okay, cool.
It's like, okay, that's great. I shouldn't have had to put that much effort to find you, but hello, I'm here. And we had a full. It was great.
Fun?
Yeah. They really, wanted to see how much you know about aviation.
I see.
So I said, I've done private flying. I'm familiar with airports, and so that kind of upped the ante a bit. So right away we were already like pushing back and going around, not having to explain as much as. To someone that has no idea.
Yeah.
And it was a very simple flight. Just up from Charles de Gaulle over to Orly, do the landing. So we did that a couple times. And it was fantastic. And
that's cool.
It's funny. I always wondered this with stationary sims, but you kind of feel the motion because it's all in your eyes.
It's in your head as well. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. If you have screens around you, you will think that your body will think that, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So you step out and you're like, whoa. I felt like I've just gone on a flight. So it was nice. It was kind of a cool little offset thing to do. So, and it's there if anyone.
I've never done it in Paris. I know where it is. So now that you tell me, I've seen one in the city. So that's not the one at Charles de Gaulle, obviously. It's the one at Bercy that I've seen. I've done that once was it in Zurich? Yeah, I've done it in Zurich, the 320. I didn't crash it. That's good. But I wasn't. That's good. Great. I wasn't great. I was too eager. I wanted to have fun, basically, And the guy's like, "This is not an arcade." I'm like, "Yeah, I get it, right?"
Like how he told you that.
Well, he kind of hinted. Also, pardon to my Swiss friends, but the German part of Switzerland can be a little bit, more serious. This is the protocol, and you have to follow the protocol. And I'm like,
you must fly the plane.
Yeah, you must fly the plane, land it safely for the passengers. But there's no passengers. This is an empty room behind me. Exactly. Anyway, not that I wanted, guys. I didn't want to crash it, but I wanted. Let's not a roll barrel, but let's bank it a bit and do something a bit.
Yeah.
But no, I love the experience because I don't think I will ever fly an actual 320. Less so a 747. So there's no that I recommend it if any of you has never done it. There also are some that they actually are moving. You have the
full motion,
the full motion, the system below it. It's these are pretty cool. Oh yeah, that's it. So what was the best memory? Olympics or that sim thing in Paris?
No, it was the Olympics as a whole. It was great, and I think you already hit that memory is seeing the passion and energy out of all the supporters of Team France.
Yeah, of course. You're
in that venue. Turf. There were a lot of supporters for Team USA for sure.
Yeah,
but to see it was like being in like a classic football match, like the level of like motion and banners and
that's awesome.
All this stuff. People just happy people.
Which is great. So you want. This is what sports is all about. For me, at least, I like to have the atmosphere. Like the fun and engaging atmosphere. Yeah, that's cool.
And the other little memory watching that opening ceremony. I was with a lot of my local staff, and you could see them getting so excited and almost to the point of tears at the different performers they're seeing, which I, as a non-French person, I have no clue who some of these people. I mean, the Celine Dion, the Lady Gagas, that's fine. And they're like, oh, that's the so-and-so from the show, or the singer of this and the poet of that. And oh, it's so wonderful to see him or her. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm happy for you being able to see that. And it gives me joy that, whatever they've put on the show in the ceremony is actually got some value.
I loved it. Honestly, I loved it. I know some parts of it were criticized, blah, 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 but I think it was just brilliant. It was very French. Maybe it's because I'm so close to, having born in Geneva, so close to France, I understood everything. I'm not talking the language, but more about the what it evokes. But I loved it. It was, it was perfect. And he showed many aspects of what France is, the tradition, the modern, the part that is a little bit more sarcastic. And I really liked it. So it was wonderful.
One thing Paris did, which very uncharacteristic. I think they probably took the entire janitorial budget for the metro system and blew it out for the year, because you could eat off the floor in those metro stations during the Olympics. Man. It was so you could it was gleaming, polished, and it did not smell of urine.
Exactly. That's what you usually associate with.
Paris, it was
Paris
fantastic.
Metro, the metropolitan. Yeah, exactly. So, what did you do after the Olympics? Because I understood. We talked. I think we hinted at in your episode one, the episode that you were featured before, that you wanted to stay in Europe, which you did. I don't have any idea which order or where exact. I have an idea where about, but I don't know did you stay a little bit more in Paris, or did you go oh no, I need an airport. I haven't had my fix. So I need a delayed aircraft.
Yeah, that's right.
I need a delayed aircraft or someone to shout on because the boarding procedure is not going the way it should be.
Yeah. So my wife and son flew across on their own.
Nice.
On Air France as well.
Good.
Which, it was the first time she was taking him. I was like, oh boy,
nice.
okay. But I booked them at the back in the 2-seater, and they had a wonderful flight. Again, Air France. I said, I understand you're in economy. I know you're in the back of the plane, but tell me about the service. She's like, it was great. The flight attendant they had was also a mother, had empathy, blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, this is great.
That's great.
I was able to go to the airport and do the whole pickup service for them. But we turned and burned. So just a quick night to reorient, and right away the next day we went to Portugal, to Porto.
Oh,
yeah.
From where? From Charlotte?
So this one, no, we flew out of Orly.
Aha.
And
had you done this one before?
No, not by as a sort of. I've transited, but I've never gone to start fresh.
What did you think about all
what on earth is going on at that airport? Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. And to think that airport was the prime airport.
Yeah.
I think it opened, so I'm pretty sure it opened in the 30s, but the Le Bourget, which was the main airport in Paris, I think closed in the 50s, if I'm not, no, in the 70s. But in the 50s, Air France moved all its operation to Orly. That was the start of Orly being the major airport. And it's only in the 70s that Charles de Gaulle opened. So there's a 20-year period where Orly is the main airport.
It's the one.
And sometimes when you go there, and I've been there also recently, you're like, it's a bit of a mess.
And it still is. So
I was excusing part of it because when you go to Paris, you've been to Paris up to the Olympics. I have not been to the Olympics, but you were like, a lot of the stuff that was happening, I was like, yeah, it's because they're readying everything for the Olympics. So you accept the fact that there's more works, more road closures, right. Your refurbishment at airports. You're like, yeah, of course you put all the money in the infrastructure. But I'm not surprised actually that Orly is still a bit of a mess.
The mess even already started before I even went to the airport, because we had a not crazy early, but like a reasonable time, 9:30 a.m. type of flight.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, there's two options to go to the airport. I have, I had a driver service from our Olympic thing who can take us. I'm like, but traffic.
Yeah.
Because
I
had this. By the time we were leaving, the Olympic road network was turned off.
Oh,
so during the Olympics, it's a major crippling thing to the city. You have like this Olympic road network that shows up.
Yeah.
And someone that like me that works, we have the accredited vehicle and we fly by all the people that are pissed off and like throwing daggers at you. But that had, yeah. I mean, a lot of cities, they just take the HOV or the transit lane and utilize that. Fine.
Yeah.
So for Orly, I was like, okay, there's no lane. There's going to be traffic. Oh boy, what do we do? The other option then was to take the metro. Because at Bercy, there's like, I forget the line number. Is it 9 or is it 12 or the 14? And it's a straight shot to Orly.
Royal Flush. I have 2 aces as well.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I looked at it, okay, 25 minutes guaranteed because it's train underground.
Yeah.
Amazing. And then I started checking, well, where does the train go? Well, it goes to one terminal, but not another. And you have to take a transfer bus or you could walk. And I was like,
do you remember which terminal you were at? We were supposed to leave from. Doesn't matter if you don't.
I don't know. It's 1 or 2. But I said, well, if it was just me or me and my wife, fine. But when you have a child and it's just,
yeah, I get
so
it.
I said, you know what? We're going to do the car thing. We'll leave a bit earlier. It's fine. Okay. And as we approach the airport, and my driver's very good, local Parisian, he's following the signs for departure, for drop off. Follow. And next thing you know, we've kind of come to this random roundabout and we're looking, so he follows the sign and then it spits us out somewhere as if we're supposed to leave. I'm like, no. Okay. So we turn around and go back and we're driving a van, like a standard mini van, like nothing over height. And eventually we go to this roundabout and it's trying to tell us to go underground.
Underground, on the underpass.
Well, no, not even. Like as if you're going to go, I don't know, to go empty the toilets of the building or something. Like that kind of zone. You're like, what? No. So he says, no, better not go there because I don't know if the van. I'm like, yeah, no, that doesn't look right. So again, we try. And we have to stop and talk to another driver who's also equally lost. And you see how cars is going in circles. But the amazing part is visually you can see some sort of curbside operation, which I think is absolutely fake. Doesn't exist. It's like a scene of a movie. They've just got actors in cars just kind of driving somewhere that you'll never ever get to and never even see. So eventually we take this road that is our only option. We go down and it takes you into, I guess it's the parkade in some way, shape, or form. And we find like a drop zone. I'm like, well, this is unconventional because there's only space for 2 vehicles.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, have we ended up like some sort of VIP part or are we in like a staff drop-off zone? I don't know where we are. But so he quickly runs in. He's like, no, this is correct. You'll see. I'm like, oh, okay. We offload, we say goodbye, we put the bags, and we walk and we go up this ramp and boop. Suddenly we're in the middle of the check-in area.
Oh, wow.
So we were dropped in the correct spot. But it wasn't a standard curbside. Nothing would make you think that you should be going there.
I was laughing so much before because I was thinking, emptying the toilet of a building type of zone is maybe the best description of Orly ever. But oh, I'm so sorry. No, mes amis français, please don't. I needed to do the joke because it made it's not that horrible. But yeah, I wonder because I know they had a huge plan of refurbishment that is still going on. And that was, I think even post-Olympics, I think they were late. They opened a new train station next to Orly, I think. There was already a train station, but I mean, they improved and vastly bigger or something. So I'm wondering, was it the case that you were... Yeah, or was it the case that the whole layout and the fact that the signs were not correct, the fact that it's still, the whole thing is not finished and over yet? I'm not sure.
This sounds like Luton.
That's very emptying the toilet of a building type of zone. Oh my God. Now I'm gonna have haters for the rest of 2025 by using these words. No, guys, this is an entertainment show. I'm making jokes. Yeah. So, how was the terminal? The rest, was it okay at least, or?
Well, there's two funny little things happen. So the standard check-in, that part's fine, but they do this odd procedure, and maybe it's because of lack of space or volume throughput. Usually you get all your security, etc. done.
Yeah.
And you stand and look at that screen and wait for your gate assignment.
Yep.
Typical thing, right? Here, they make you wait pre-security.
What?
For the gate. And then you get processed through.
Oh wow, I've never had that there. So
Yeah, and
Wow.
maybe it was just the section we were in, or I don't know. It was
maybe the
it was
terminal we were
different.
in, or maybe the fact that maybe, like you said, maybe they knew there was not enough space on the other side. Oh wow,
Yeah, I have a feeling it's because there's very little retail or shopping.
Aha,
hours.
yeah.
So they want you to do all that before.
Please shop at Relay and Relay and Relay. There's Relay.
Yeah.
But, well, actually, that's very, because you hinted that he was maybe Terminal 1-2, you said. So maybe, I don't remember. Like,
it's whatever
I mixed it.
tap
Because,
flies
by the
out
way,
of.
they changed, because he used to be called 1-2 was west and 4 was sud, so south. And
Yeah.
now they are in, that's where the whole works is in. I don't know if it's ready or not. There's a 3 that will link 1-2 and 4, so to have like a full building. So you'll be able to walk all throughout, whereas before there was buses, transfer, whatever. So I'm wondering, part of all that experience is because the refurbishment, it's not even refurbishment, the works is not finished. I haven't been in a month now, so more than a month with a S in the end, so I don't know where it stands, but maybe. But even though, no matter all I just said, it's not an excuse. It's never been the greatest experience. Maybe it was an airport built not for the kind of travel we do in 2024 compared to maybe 50 years ago. Maybe that's why.
As I'm talking to you, I would just quickly punch into Google right now what airline does TAP fly out of, and even Google doesn't know. Like the Bonjour RATP site says TAP flies out of Terminal 1 and 3, and then you go to another site and it says it flies out of 1 and 2. So they don't
Probably
even
at least
know.
you were west. Actually, at least 1, 2, because 3 is the new one. So maybe actually it says that it's open if it says 3. Anyway, we're going into too many details here for the, like this this is like every show the same with Alex. This sometimes are conversations like we do with friends, and we tend to forget there's a lot of people listening, and we go into details that might be not interesting at all to you.
But there is one interesting detail about security.
Oh, go.
They have a bee in their bonnet about hairbrushes.
What?
First time in my entire travel experience. So we standard security, and they start asking, do you have a hairbrush? Or they ask my wife, like, just a regular hairbrush. She's like, yes. You need to take it out.
What?
Excuse me? They made her take the hairbrush out as if it's like a laptop and put it in a bin.
What is that?
I don't know.
Maybe it's a new type of security. The world moves to having security. You don't have to remove your liquids. You don't have to remove your electronics. And Paris decided to say, well, we go the other way around. Now you remove everything plus your hairbrush. Because you had to find something. That's a very guys,
strange.
If somebody in
I would love
France,
to know if this is
there must be a reason. Maybe there's been a security threat. Maybe there's something, because otherwise they wouldn't be flagged. I've never seen this.
Never. Yeah.
If anyone knows that, Instagram, we're now on Blue Sky as well, layovers, wherever, to tell us if you know about the reason why an airbrush. Right now I cannot think of a reason, because what are you gonna stab someone with an airbrush?
Scratch their, I don't know.
That is weird, man.
I mean, we complied, and
No, of course,
equally
yeah.
the people behind us, they didn't have a hairbrush, but they were equally as perplexed. With a bit of the broken English, and asking, because we thought, are we hearing this wrong? Is there something else? No.
Well, as you guys all know, I'm bald, so I don't know nothing about airbrushes, and this story would have never happened to me. So I don't know if it's something that is long-standing at Orly, because it never happened to me, obviously, or if it's something was maybe a security threat. I have no idea, guys. If you know, tell us. If you get no message, it means that nobody knows, and there's a mystery, a French mystery. Clouseau must be on the lookout for.
If he can even make it to the terminal.
One thing we said French chic earlier, talking about Air France. Mm-hmm. One thing I appreciate about the French is always this elegance. I think they're on now, but I'm not exactly sure. Probably because of the Olympics. They hired a fashion designer, Jean-Jacques de Castelbajac. He's pretty well known in France and abroad if you're into fashion. To design the uniform of the ground staff. So not the staff from Air France and from an airline. So the ground staff have, of course, every airport, the ground staff have some type of uniform, but they would hire a high-end fashion designer to do that. I love that. This is so French, but this is so cool.
Yeah,
I love
you're
it.
right. They did look good now that I think it back.
Maybe the Italian, let's be fair, the Italians would probably do the same. The Italians would probably have like Armani or I don't know, whoever to do. No, but I mean, that's cool as well, you know. Whereas sometimes in the US or in like, you know,
it's just like a standard Navy sort of.
Yeah, it's not a diss against the US or London or the UK. It's more that this is uniformly thought of something that must be practical. That's it. So they're probably very comfortable and very useful, but they're not especially nice to look at. So
exactly.
Anyway, that's TAP. The boarding experience was okay.
Yeah, all pretty standard, pretty normal. I think we actually had a jet bridge on this one.
Cool.
Just Embraer 195.
Oh, nice.
Fairly nice new.
I like this aircraft.
Beautiful, nice, quick little hop over to Porto. Straight in landing, beautiful sunny day, and into Porto with no issues, like nothing. I mean, it was a pretty hustling curbside, that's for sure. And when you're calling the Uber, you're kind of, I don't understand, like, there has to be a better way. Like, these airports, they build these or they've integrated the ride share pickup into their curbs.
Thank God, because it was a mess for years. So yeah,
when there was nothing. But I mean, we're talking like a 100-meter zone. How does the driver know exactly where you are? Like, I think a couple of them have some numbers, but
I was about to say, I think in New York, I remember both, at least JFK. Now I might be mistaken in my memory, but they have these numbers. So you exit, and then there's zone 1, 2, 3, or 35, 36. So you have like it's a delimited part of that, you know, curb where you're staying, which I think it's a very good idea. Because in some other airports, it's like, where is the guy?
Well, and Porto didn't have that. So I'm there pacing up and down looking for a whatever, Renault, something car. And eventually I lock eyes with him, make him realize me. I'm walking on the curb as he's driving, trying to like rush through the people to match up with family and luggage. So
I have a proposal here. It's not for Porto. By the way, I've never been to Porto. Surprise, surprise. There's cities in Europe I haven't visited, so I've never been to that airport. But I know that you've only been basically you've exited and went to the pickup. Yeah. So we're not going to talk about Porto today. But I have one proposal. It's a bit. You made me thought about this just now, because I don't know if you've seen. Everyone who has an iPhone knows about AirTags. And Apple just introduced a system called share item location. So you can not only just follow whatever you have, your luggage or whatever, with a tag, but also share it with someone. And they've done a partnership with airlines. So Aer Lingus, Canada, Air New Zealand, Austrian, I think BA, there must be Delta. Lufthansa is pretty sure is in Qantas, KLM, of course, because that's Air France, Singapore, Swiss, Turkish, United. I'm missing a few. They will all, so meaning if you don't know where your luggage is, it hasn't arrived, and you know where it is, you can share that back with the airline, and the airline will have a system to actually look. So because before
to pick up on your data.
Yes, because before you would show that, they're saying, we don't know, they will feign that they know nothing. Well, we don't know where your luggage is. And you're like,
our system knows better.
I know where it is. And like, no. So now they are integrated, which is a cool thing. So I'm proposing, to your point, that we do that with Uber. So like, my car, share item, the car is over there. Because with AirTags, you can locate exactly where an item is. So you can locate your car, your Uber at the curb with a system of AirTags. That's my proposal. I don't know. Did you visit at Porto? I mean, we're not a tourist, tips destination, but since I've never been to Porto, or did you just? Yeah, no,
we did 2.5 days in Porto.
It's worth it.
Oh, it's wonderful. So it's a great little city. It's a wonderful weekend city break for,
I will do that.
Anyway, so
come spring, I will have to go. Okay, go on. So
then we took the train from Porto to Lisbon.
So as you've seen, guys, since the last episode, I mean, it's not exactly since the last episode, but since I spent an hour talking about a train, I'm going to now allow trains to be part of the show. I mean, I say it's not exact because we've talked about the Shinkansen, for instance, a few times. But yeah, I want to hear a little bit about the train because I think it was not completely uneventful.
Well, yes and no. It should have been uneventful, but there's a bit of confusion with this train. So it's called the Alpha Pendular is their version of. I mean, it's not like Shinkansen bullet type train,
but it's still fast.
But it's a fast train.
Okay.
Yeah, it moves quick. It's Porto to Lisbon in under 3 hours.
Oh, nice.
It moves it's beautiful. It banks the corners and all this kind of stuff.
The Pendolino, yeah. I think the design was called originally Pendolino. The train, even the cars move a little bit to help with the speed on the corners.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And the booking site, everything's fine, but we'll come back to the booking site in a second. The terminal departure experience, how to get on the train, the seats, all fine. The cabin is standard, very good, European, modern.
Yeah.
And when you're traveling with a child, you want to look and get the right type of seating. All good. So we take said train. Now I had booked. There's 2 stations in Lisbon. There's Oriente and Santa Apollonia.
Mm-hmm.
And, at the time of booking, I didn't know. So I booked Oriente because that was the main one kept showing up. And to me, that was the main station, which it is, sort of. So train's coming in. It says the next station, Lisbon Oriente. Okay, fine. So pulls in. Now we're traveling with wife and child. Let the first thrush of people go, and right away, okay, let's go. So go. She steps off with him and the stroller. I'm there with the bags. And these modern trains have all these hydraulics. You hear like the psh, and then the door closes. I'm like, right. So it times out. So I push the button, it opens. I'm about to step down and it closes on me again. I'm like, ugh, blasted door. I step back. I'm like, well, maybe I go to a different door. And I'm in the connector accordion thing on the train.
Yeah.
And the train starts to move.
Oh.
So wife and child are on the platform at Oriente Station, and the train is going somewhere, and I'm on it. And it's not like a scene or of romantic travel where it's like the window's like, call me out the way. I'm like just stuck in metal, literally in metal. I'm like, what the? Oh no! Am I being deported out to Spain or something? Like, what's happening?
Oh God!
I thought that was the end of the line. Well, no, but pretty much immediately the rest of the train is standing up and about to get their bags. I'm like, oh. So I just asked them, like, where are we going? They're like, oh, we're going to Santa Apollonia, the end of the line.
Of the line, yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. So I quickly check, wait for her to turn the data roaming on. Fine, these are the days of modern technology. So quick messaging, saying, don't worry, stay there. I'll get an Uber. I'll come back. It's fine. And then I ended up going to the next station and seeing the historic station and just going back. So it was a bit dramatic, more on a personal level, nothing to do with the train. But at the point of the booking, it didn't say anything about, it doesn't show you the itinerary or anything. It just says you have a ticket from here to here, and that's the end of it.
But I would say, and that's been because when we travel with airlines, we usually travel, how do I want to say this? Basically, what I'm trying to say is that it seems to me that a lot of the booking systems for local systems are made for locals. As in, even the people that test it and do the quality testing, they're like, well, I get it. So, and then they should probably sometimes randomize the customers from abroad and say, do you understand what that ticket means, or the destination, or the routing? Because like you come to the UK, because I live here, and I remember coming here and there was like off-peak, super off-peak hours, but none of the systems would tell you which hours it is. So you say, should I choose off-peak? So at the beginning, I would just choose the normal rate, which is extortionate compared to the others, because it doesn't tell you what are the times that you can go and use. So these are the kind of things, and most of the systems, and that was the case, I mentioned the last episode in Ukraine, part of the reason I couldn't understand what I was doing, that I didn't have to do because the team did it for me, was the information. If you've been to that train, if you've done it 20 times, or if even a single time, you understand. Yeah. And whether on airlines, it's generally not as, because there's an airport with a code. The plane will not stop at Orly for a split second before rerouting to Charles de Gaulle for the rest of the passengers to go off. That kind of thing doesn't really. That would be cool though, but it will never happen. So I think that's part of it. I think that these systems are not really well made for people who are not locals, or at least don't know, or regulars or something. Yeah.
Like if I was ever do that again, I would know that you get off with that main Russia passage.
Exactly.
You don't have
now
that
you
much
know.
time.
Yeah. Now you know.
It's not stopping. So yeah. yeah, Portugal is wonderful. You know, we spent a number of days in Lisbon, rented a car, drove down the coast, all things sand, sun, and beach.
Nice.
I love Portugal. It's my second time there, and I have no hesitation going back.
How south did you go? Did you go like to the Algarve? Did you go like?
Yeah, and then all the way to right over to Sagres, the Algarve, and then hopped, you know, kind of skipped around the Faro part and went over to the coastal bit to the border of Spain.
Oh, nice.
Over there. Yeah, just
that region
wonderful.
is amazing. I love Portugal. I love, and the people are so nice, and the food is. Well, I mean, now it's discovered. I mean, 15 years ago, I would still say to people, you know, go, because it was not undiscovered, but you know, now it's become almost like fashionable to have gone to Portugal. A lot of people, especially, I mean, Lisbon has been there. You know, in the US during the pandemic, people were either going to Austin or to Miami to escape the lockdowns, blah, blah, blah. The version of that here, though there were lockdowns, it's nothing to do with the policies, was to go to the sun. People from London and other places moved to Lisbon. It became almost like a trend. It was a very trendy place to be at. I don't know if it's still the case today. I mean, it's still full and the prices are over crazy for if you want to buy a house. So yeah, if you haven't been, any of you listening, you should. It's a wonderful place, wonderful country.
And there's a part of the city that, if you're really into airplanes, you need to go wherever my friend lives. So we have a friend there, old mate from university, come to the house or apartment. He had just renovated. He's like, oh, you know, go hang out in this part of the apartment. Okay. He says, sorry, it's going to be a bit noisy because we're right under the flight path into Lisbon. Like, excuse me, what? What do you mean? And these things come pretty much right over this apartment building.
Oh.
And I pretty much just spent the whole visit in that corner of the room, just looking out the window.
I get it.
It was fantastic. It was beautiful.
Most of the people listening to
day.
this podcast would get it. Yeah, of course. I would stay in the same corner of the same room. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
So from there, then we picked back up onto travel in Faro.
Yes.
And this is now Faro to Dublin on Ryanair.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Here we go. So before you go to Ryanair, how did you Faro? I mean, we did episode 97, I think 98, 97, I forgot, of this show. We discussed about Faro a bit in more details, but did you like it? It's pretty modern, right? Pretty works.
It's actually quite nice. And
yeah, it is. Right.
Quite large. Like you have a lot of space to...
Yeah, it works well, I think.
Literally to stretch out. You do the car rental return, you have to do this underground tunnel thing.
Yeah.
To kind of go under that curbside and pop in the terminal. But it was fine.
Yeah.
No,
it's a fine airport.
No issues with flow or anything like that.
No, I think it's a good airport. But Ryanair, I don't know.
I know.
No.
Yeah.
Look. It's fashionable, since I just mentioned trends, and it's fashionable to diss Ryanair. But at the end of the day, Ryanair is the largest airline in Europe by far. It's a very efficient airline as well. It's profitable. It gives access to travel to a lot of people that might not want to pay extortionate prices of, you know, the traditional carrier. I respect Ryanair. You know, I love making jokes. We do love making jokes because it's a fun, you know, it's fun to poke at. And of course, when things do not work, and I don't know any background of your story, we'll come to that in a second. When things do not work, it's easy to say, oh, it's because it's low cost. But let's be real. When things do not work with BA, when things do not work with Iberia, when things do not work with Lufthansa, they don't work either, and you're pissed off the same.
All the same.
And actually, I would even say the advantage probably of low-cost airlines, especially Ryanair, is that they have such a crazy network that the plane you're attributed for your destination might be coming from, who knows, whatever, Geneva, to say something, because I'm from there. And if that plane is delayed, they have these algorithms that can say, okay, we're going to reroute these other... They have these complex algorithms, whereas most of the other airlines is point A to point B and back. And it's not a diss on the other line, but it means that sometimes they can actually rejiggle the network, the low costs, especially Ryanair, to make it work pretty... I think it's a beautiful operation. It's super efficient, so it's not beautiful as in the inside and the experience, and it's efficient. You pay low prices to get to where you want to go. So was that the difference you had? Did you pay low price to get to where you want to go, or was
we paid low-ish price, but there were basically only two options for the date and the time that we need to go. It was Ryanair or think it was Aer Lingus, and Ryanair was quite a bit cheaper. But
Yeah.
I've known from the past that if you're going to do something like a Ryanair, you need to add in all your tricks to make it feel as if you're on a standard carrier. So I added the bags, I added the seats, I did all of that stuff in advance.
Yeah.
And you know what? We had a wonderful flight.
Yeah.
Right from check-in, like I weighed the bags, I complied, I bought into the system.
Yeah. I agreed. That's a very good way. It's very
way.
smart to say that. You have to buy into the system.
Yeah. If you
100%.
buy into it and
if you fight
it's still within your budget, if you fight it, you're done.
you're done. Exactly.
Yeah. You're not
100%.
win. And the family in front of us were fighting it. Oh, too many bags. Oh, too heavy. Oh, and then, they're pounding their fists on the table. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like what the rules are there. Like just
Yeah. No, I fully agree with you, man. You're flying Ryanair, you're not flying first class in Singapore Airlines.
Right.
It is not a diss on either. I'm just saying it's part of the deal, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. Was it? Did you check some luggage, right?
We had to check luggage. Yeah.
Was it through did you have a desk or it was a machine? Like you self-serve, you put your thing, you get the tag yourself, and you put. Do you remember that?
Okay, you're right. Things are not always as smooth as we want to first think it is. So both options existed.
Okay.
So immediately I was looking at the self-serve. I'm like, oh, but no, you need to have downloaded something on the Ryanair app and done some sort of.
Oh.
You had to go through a couple hoops to be able to do that, which that wasn't made clear and obvious in the days before. And fortunately, the lineup with an actual counter was not that long.
Okay.
Apart from this family in front of us that we're not buying into the system. So it was fine. And they just processed us. But yeah, no, they had the option and they were well staffed. Maybe, started the day first thing in the morning because it was a fairly early flight.
Yeah.
Everyone was fresh and cheery and happy. So lots of people there. It was good.
Yeah, because the reason I mentioned it is because there's a clear plan, and in some airports it's already the case, to remove. So they have removed the check-in desks. So not the check-in desk where you can get a boarding pass if you haven't done it on your mobile, and I got to that in a second. But they want a full automated system. It's also to reduce the human costs of basically staff to be hired. You'll have to go through the machine, which is why I'm curious. I know that they started maybe in Dublin. I'm not sure, guys in Dublin. You'll let us know, but I know it's a clear plan to remove most of basically human interaction and to have everything done in the app. And that's the second bit. They will stop. So right now, if you forget to print your boarding pass and or to download it on the app, you can still go to a check-in counter and you have to pay. It's extortionate. It's like $50, the equivalent, 50 euros or 60 euros, I forgot, to get it printed. Just simply to get a boarding
Just
pass.
to print it, right?
To print it, if you've forgotten to have to do it. They are removing that as well. They will.
Wow.
So it will be a smartphone operation only. You will have to have downloaded the app and do everything through the smartphone. I'm pretty sure that printing the ticket at home will still exist. That was not in what I was reading, the interviews of Michael O'Leary, the CEO. But clearly they will remove all this. Of course, there's been a little bit of outcry of people say, I don't have a smartphone. And I get it, right? But probably also Ryanair knows that, this is a very small subset of people who fly us, who are ready to cut them off if they're not happy. It's going to be a pure smartphone operation. Of course, they will still staff on the ground for some operation. I'm not saying they're going to not have anyone from Ryanair or anywhere, but that's
really
direction,
minimalizing it.
Yeah, that's the direction of traffic. That's really the direction of traffic. And once Ryanair does something, the industry kind of follows. I'm not saying that every single airline would do it, but first, the Wizz Air, there are EasyJet here. They will look at it and say, well, if that works for them, we could actually try that as well. And if you think about economy flights, economy seats on traditional airlines for short haul here in Europe, it's basically a low-cost operation right now. It feels like it. I've done a few economy flights this year, more than a few actually. It's really no difference between.
It's the same. You're paying for the bag. You're paying for the seat.
Yeah. There's no difference, man. I flew, whether it was BA, whether it was Swiss was nice, but I flew a few, and it was barely a bottle of water, and that's it. And it was just sat there, and then I left, which is fine, which is what you want for an hour, 20 minutes, or whatever type of flights, even 2 hours. So I'm happy to do everything through a smartphone. Sorry, that was a big parenthesis to your story, but I think it's because we don't. I don't speak enough about low cost. It's a bit of a, low cost. What does he think for the, I actually made a joke the other day because when I think I was coming back from Zurich and I was writing to a friend on WhatsApp and I was waiting and I was in group 3, whatever the grouping. The grouping was very weird, but that's for another time. Let's not talk about Swiss today. But anyway, he says, so which class are you today? And I'm like, I'm in poverty class. I have to wait until the end of the morning. It's a stupid joke, guys, let's be clear. But I think that's fine. And that's why I'd rather, usually I fly EasyJet, but mostly because EasyJet is more easily accessible from where I live in London. But otherwise,
if it was fine. Ryanair, then it would be Ryanair.
And you liked it. We had a pleasant flight. I mean, pleasant as in there was nothing wrong about it, and you just went from A to B.
Well,
or was it?
Yeah, we boarded the plane expecting, the crazy advertising, the almost fluorescent yellow in your face, and no leg room and non-recline. I was like, okay, well, we're ready for that. We've fed, we've watered, we're good to go. And the aircraft they were using, I think, was one of their older 737-800s.
I see.
There was the advertising, like the little framing on the bin where you would slot in that card of whatever thing they're selling. It was all empty.
Oh,
I mean, the seats were well used, but the legroom was fine.
That's good.
I was shocked. I'm like, what aircraft? Okay, well, the next thing that's going to happen is, you have the crew blaring out, oh, I'm selling this. I'm going to buy your lottery ticket here.
Lottery tickets, yeah, exactly.
This was I don't know if it was maybe a Faro or Portugal based or maybe a Spanish based crew.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
They couldn't have cared less. They just operated this as if it was a standard mainline carrier. Standard announcement. Yeah, okay, they came through with the cart of goodies.
Yeah, buy on board or something.
Of course.
Fine. Yeah, fine. But
and there was one or two announcements of, oh, make sure you buy this. And that was it.
Yeah,
it was just a standard, normal flight.
I think there's a lot of... because we hear all these stories, and because, again, it's a very easy target. Even like living here on the British press, you always love to this on Ryanair, that we think that every flight is crazy stupid. And I don't think it's the case. Yeah. It's a bus. Yeah. It's a bus from A to B.
It's a bus. And you see on social media, all these incidents of, these flights going to all these party places and all the mad things going on in the planes. Like, But
actually, you know what? Ryanair is pretty tough on that because they had recently was a court case that happened in Athens. From memory, there was a court case. So there was a disruptive passenger, like the people were doing, stupid shit, which is doesn't only happen in low-cost airlines.
Right.
And I don't remember if the guy was drunk or whatever it was, but disruptive. And he got expelled. I think it was expelled from the flight. So he couldn't actually take off. And then he got also fined.
For delaying.
I don't remember the amount. We're not talking about billions, guys, but we're still talking about an amount that is not like €20 or $20, right? So something that is still. And he went to court in Athens because Athens was, I think, where the whole thing happened. He lost, and it's not that he lost; is that Ryanair was ready to go to court to fight to say no, he needs to get fined. So Ryanair, I think. I mean, of course, they made a calculation. They would have not gone to court for like 200 years to try to win a case for €400 or something. But it means Ryanair, I think, tries to minimize this type of disruption because it doesn't help them. If a plane is late, the whole operation is messed up. If you have a delay because of one passenger or of a group passenger partying too much, then it's a cost on the airline as well. And not only because it's uncomfortable for other passengers. So, they're being tight about this. So, again, I think a lot of the stuff we say about Ryanair is not warranted. But to their credit, if you follow Ryanair on social media, they play with that a lot.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I find they use it to change minds and moods, and
I think it's
the right go. So the flight was fine, and there's this funny little thing that happened at the end. So we have a little logbook for our son.
Oh yeah,
passenger logbook, and I've been using it since day one. So
that's amazing. I wish I had that.
The thing's almost more valuable than the passport because the passport you can replace, the logbook you can't.
So what do you put in the log? Explain. What do you put in the logbook?
It actually has all the mileage, the registration, the routing, the names of the captain, and whatnot.
Oh, the names of the captain as well.
Yeah, they put the
name
of the captain, first officer, flying time, distance, registration, aircraft type, all this just data. Right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's nice. And it's
nice
guys, I want to say because he just showed it to me on camera. It's handwritten, so you write that down every single. So you go to the cockpit.
So what you do is
the names?
you generally you give it to flight attendant, cabin crew person, or say, "Oh, can you please get the flight deck to sign?" And generally it just goes up and comes back, and it's all good. You slip your boarding pass so they don't lose a thing. Now on Ryanair, things got a little bit funny. So I find the flight attendant, and maybe English was not first language. I say, "Oh, logbook. Oh, okay." So she goes up and then comes back and says, "Okay, you're welcome to visit the flight deck when we land." I'm like, I don't want to for two reasons. A, we have to land in Dublin and rent a car and drive for 3 hours. I don't really have time I want to waste in this one. Second, and this is going to sound so snobby, it's a 737. I've been there hundreds of times.
At first, I was thinking, I have to take care of my kid, and this is why I cannot lose. No, it's no, my God, it's just a 37, man. Yeah, but you've been traveling. I mean, you've been working.
And I've sat on the deck as crew,
I was about to say
bazillion times.
Like many of us who haven't, because I would have gladly gone to the.
Of course.
Oh wow.
So I said, "Oh, it's okay. We'll just get the book." So essentially, no, it ended up being they're going to hold the book up front until we came up to get it as part of the visit. Wow. And I'm like, okay, sure.
I guess from their point of view, that was a nice gesture to do. Because
it was a nice gesture,
right?
It just translated a little bit wonky for.
But I mean, for the pilot point of view, it's like, let's give them a more than just bits of data, but they can actually see the cockpit. Which, honestly, to be fair, is really cool that they.
It's very cool, and I love having them up there. But now, what's one of the things that Ryanair prides itself on is fast, tight turns.
Yes.
Aircraft lands, they turn that thing so fast, the cleaners are on, boom, 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 boom.
That's part of the business. That's why they make money, because they have to go super fast, right? Yeah.
So here we are, we trottle up front, wife, child, okay, and shove them up there. The pilots chit chat, lights on, okay. And I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, good. Quick picture, okay, thank you very much, book, let's go. And we go, and the entire cleaning staff is there waiting for us
already. Oh wow!
Because they can't do anything till passengers are off.
Wow!
And our bags are there. I'm like, oh, sorry. And the crew's there waiting. I'm like, we gotta get off this plane.
well, of course, that's more to the credit of the pilots. They put the cleaning crew in late.
Yeah, they put us first. Right? Yeah.
But that's nice still. So you got that line filled with the data.
We got it. Yeah. And we stepped off that aircraft in Dublin, and did we freeze? We went from almost 30-degree Faro, Portugal, to like 15-degree blowing wind Dublin, straight off onto the tarmac. Oh, the shock to the senses. But the interesting thing is, it was one of those ones where you're close enough to the terminal that you just walk.
I was about to say there's no bridge, so so it was
So we're walking along, and first thing I see is like this large group of people gathered in a sort of holding pen outside like the building part, as if they were about to be released to go to their aircraft. I'm like, that's a lot of people. And I turn and look, and there's WestJet from Canada's Dreamliner parked. I'm like, do you not use a jet bridge for that plane? What's happening here? Very strange. And all these Canadians are standing there like in the wind, kind of waiting orderly to board. Yeah, it was a bit of an odd scene.
The cliche is that the Canadians are probably used to that kind of weather, so they're not that cold.
Yeah,
unless they're from Vancouver, like you, and
that's right. And it's Dublin.
I don't know why. Is it because WestJet is not a low cost, but it's not a high cost. No. I want to explain. WestJet is also very good at trying to, I was about to say trying to cut costs. That's not the idea, because everybody cuts costs. BA, you cut costs too much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't know if they were just randomly assigned a stand position versus a jet bridge. I don't know if paying less would get you.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. And the distinction between low cost and high cost is not even a term. But you know what I mean? It's like, they don't want to, usually low cost tend to not want to pay for any, surplus. So no jet bridge, no bus, no. They'll walk a half a kilometer on the taxiway.
With like 200 to 300 people.
If we lose some on the way, they already paid, so whatever. I'm kidding, guys, of course. Okay.
Yeah, so that was cool. Dublin was a pretty decent experience, but it's funny, it just felt very busy.
It's
like I've been to Dublin before, and maybe just the times that I'd landed and departed. But when we arrived and got into that building, sort of joined the main thrush of arriving passengers.
which month was it? Do you remember?
This was August.
Okay, so I have a piece of data for you. August was the airport's busiest month ever, Dublin Airport. The most
Really?
passenger went through Dublin Airport. I know the story because Dublin Airport has a system of a cap, so they have an agreement, I think, with the district or whatever the name of the area where they're in. They cannot go above 33 million passengers, maybe 32, I forgot.
Oh, wow.
Million passengers a year. And they've hit that. They're above, actually, I think 2024, which ends in 10 days when we're recording this, they will have been slightly above that by maybe 500,000 or 1 million, which of course means that
Not just 500,000.
the cap is no longer, and to go back to Ryanair, especially as O'Leary is very unhappy, very more than unhappy about the fact that the cap is not being upgraded. He says it needs to be 40 million. But to go back to the point, this is why I know that August, and I thought about you because, of course, guys, he told me the few airports he had hit before we recorded. Like, maybe that's when he went to Dublin, and now it puts it all into
totally
place.
makes
So
sense.
yeah, so maybe it was just a lot of visitors were there, a lot of tourists.
It must have been. Yeah, because I mean, we, baggage claim, all that stuff is generally always busy. So we have to go then to rent a vehicle.
Yep.
I have never seen car rental counters all consistently lined up. Usually you go and maybe one of the companies had a special, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
Hertz is very busy and there's budget down the way with like crickets.
Yeah.
No, this was like Boxing Day or something where you had like queuing and lineup and layers of people to get through. I'm like, what is happening? And then it's very convoluted. You have to get you do the first processing, then you have to go out, get a shuttle to the offsite, go there, line up, and then go find the car. It was a long
That's
thing.
a very European experience, man. I know that in the US, I've never been to Canada.
You've never been to Canada?
There again. But it's in the US. It felt more straightforward to me to rent a car. In Europe, it's not that straightforward. It's not straightforward, but because of these airports, either within cities or all designs, the car culture is not obviously as big as in the US.
Yes, true.
It's always a case when you have either to walk 5-10 minutes to get to a special car park, which all these car rental companies share, or you have to take a shuttle, or you have to go to minus, almost to the gates of hell to find the latest, like the lowest possible basement number. No, it's often the case, and you can see it was thought after the design of the airport and not as
Yes,
part.
it's layered in, right?
Whereas the US, you have giant car parks anyway around all the airports possible. So you just go to a car park, which is usually pretty accessible. Similar, actually, in the Middle East. I've had, I never rented a car in Japan. At the airport, I've rented a car otherwise. So yeah, I think that's why it's a bit convoluted, like you say. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
it
European.
just felt so busy. But anyway,
But I think,
all good.
and then, sorry, because I keep adding stuff here. I think having seen the numbers of, tourists, I read these numbers, like number of visitors in many other places, not only Ireland or Dublin in particular. We mentioned many times that I don't like the term over tourism. I think it's at least less busy world we've seen is today, because tomorrow is going to be even busier. I think we're going to have
Absolutely.
this podcast in 10 years, Vinod, and we'll say, what the hell happened? There's like too many people. Too many for maybe us because we're not used to it, and your kid will say, "Well, that's normal, whatever."
It's normal.
What are
It's always busy like this.
Exactly. What are you talking about that? So it's just a case that it seems I've heard a lot of stuff about in Japan that there's way too many people. And blah, blah, blah. I don't know if it's true because come on, Japan has I think this year they had 32, 33 million. Oh, that's the same number that I just said about
same,
Dublin visitors. A city like London has 30, 35, and Paris has probably 50. But I guess when you're not used to it, it matters. And I think it's only going to increase. People have these low cost, people want to travel. And I get it. So we're part of the problem, by the way, guys, by talking about travel all the time. We make people want to see Porto and to see Dublin. Dublin is very cool. I mean, I like that city a lot.
We actually didn't even spend any time in Dublin because we had a family to visit over on the west coast in Sligo.
Oh, wow.
So we ripped across with the car and spent a few days there, which was wonderful and nice. And sort of a rather cold experience in that sense, but compared to Portugal, but that's okay. And then back to Dublin to fly Dublin to Charles de Gaulle. So you mentioned
no Ryanair there, because I don't think Ryanair can afford to fly to Charles de Gaulle. The fees would be way too expensive for them. So.
Yeah, well, we didn't want to go to Bourget, so
yeah, well, in Paris,
right?
Exactly. It's that airport is.
That's where they go.
Freaking, I don't even know what it is on a map. I mean, I've never thought about it.
Funny, during the games time, one of my staff was finishing flying out, and she had to fly out of Bourget. I was like, "Oh, I'll send you in a car. It's okay." And then I looked, I'm like, "I'm going to lose this driver for like 6 hours." By the time he goes, takes her, has a break, fuel, and come back. I'm like, good grief!
It's a different city, but it's why it's called Bourget. It's a bit like London has the same problem. When they start calling airports like London Oxford Airport, this is not London. This is Oxford, guys, or London Southern Airport. This is not. This is like at the coast. It's like, don't kid yourself. But of course, it's the attraction of London and Paris in your case. So Charles de Gaulle. So who did you fly with?
This is Aer Lingus.
Oh,
yeah.
I've never flown them, or did I? Maybe once.
I flown them once before, and at that time, I remember their carry-on baggage policy was very strict.
Oh, come on, you just had been with Ryanair, so it's not gonna be.
Well, that's the thing. So I was like, okay, we've already shrunk down. But you had mentioned earlier about how Dublin is really going to be almost like fully automated, and the Aer Lingus check-in zone was very, very automated.
Oh, good.
Like I want to say over 80% of the experience
Oh, wow.
or of the options available to you were automated. So same thing, kiosk, and then do the bag drop. And again, I'm the type of person that weighs my bags, puts a bit of buffer, and makes sure we're not going to be over. Because the one thing about these automated bag drops, you can't argue and be like, "Oh, it's okay. It's half a kilo over. We'll let it go."
Exactly.
It's
Mr. Machine, leave me. Trust me, but you know the ashes of my grandmother are in that thing. No, exactly. You can't, or you cannot do the thing that I've did a few times immediately when. I put because I usually have a very heavy backpack. But sometimes I even only travel with a backpack, as people listening to these podcasts will know. And sometimes the airline says, it's 8 kilos, might be 9, not like 40. First of all, because I don't want to have 40 kilos on my back. But you put the thing on the
sizer.
There's a scale.
Scale.
But the way I put it and I tip my foot slightly so that like I lose maybe, and the guy's like, oh, whatever, and he goes, you cannot do that with a machine. It's
all or nothing.
Oh, so well, but that's it. But I think that's the future of airports, to be that automated. Again, some people, maybe even listening to this, might not like it, and sometimes I don't. I like to have a little bit of interaction. The usual, have a good flight, and you say, you too, and I'm like, oh no. He's not flying. She's not flying. When you're checking color. You two. What did I say? You two. He's staying there and he's checking other passengers. He's not going to fly anywhere. You cannot do that with a machine. The machine,
no. And it was interesting. Like the automated section was not that it was empty, but it was just perfect. There was always a machine available. But then you looked at the line where people needed to go for human interaction because of the wait or something, and that line was just banging. It was rammed full. I'm like, whoa. Oh, okay. So it's either people that just aren't comfortable with technology, or it's not working out for them, or something. So I was happy it all worked out for us.
I think if you've never done it, it's maybe a bit like off-putting.
Yeah.
And I think by default, I can see that a lot of people, if they have a choice, will choose a human, which is nice. It means that we're still human, and we prefer talking to a human than to a machine. Unless you're someone like me, like I want to go fast, the machine will go faster. But I think if you've never done it, it's maybe intimidating as well. It's not that you're bad with technology, but you're like, oh, I'm not sure. I was, where was I? What happened to me recently? Was it JFK, actually? There was such a massive queue at the check-in counters that I decided to go to the kiosks, right?
Okay, yeah.
And I had just, again, a carry-on. And the kiosk started asking, do you have a carry-on? Yes, and blah, blah, blah. And then the machine not only started issuing me like bits and bobs, and I was like, what am I supposed to do now? And what they wanted is that my carry-on, even though I would have it into the cabin with me, would have a specific tag. Like some airlines give you. So it's just that the first time I was like, even someone as used to travel in planes than me, it was like, what is going on here? I was
you off, right? Something different.
Exactly. So I understand. The point is that I understand if sometimes you don't know, you're like, oh, there's a human there. I can have a normal discussion. It's not a robot.
Yeah. All things Dublin were fine, and we ended up having to take a bus to a sort of satellite terminal.
Okay.
Which I didn't know existed. Sort of like this.
Yeah, I've done once.
Here, where kind of all the 320s line up.
Yeah, I've done that.
And you just basically walk straight out.
Yeah.
Sadly, the walkout was a soaker because it was just bucketing rain, and there's no like covered anything, so you just kind of make a run for it. But it was fine. Just a bit of rain. Nothing wrong with that. It was actually quite nice. A nice, quiet little terminal away from the hustle and bustle.
Yeah.
And Aer Lingus, bang up job, no issues, all fine. Flight over to Paris. So then we go and we're coming into Terminal 1 at Charles de Gaulle.
Oh,
Fantastic.
right, exactly. I mean, it's not made for our century, let's be honest. Even they've done refurbishment and they try to, but it's such a beautiful terminal in terms of design.
It's a circle.
Yeah. For me, it evokes guys, if you've never seen Terminal 1 of Charles de Gaulle, because you have to fly specific airlines and routes to be there. Otherwise, most probably, if you've been to Charles de Gaulle, almost certainly on long haul, you will have ended up at Terminal 2. Yes. Look it up. It evokes for me an era where there was such an optimism about travel, and that it was a future. And this is retro-futuristic, this terminal, because
absolutely
the way it's designed, it was clearly not made for an era where suddenly like everybody and their grandmother and their sons and their daughters would fly all at the same time, because it's not made for that kind of capacity.
No.
But it's so beautiful as a piece of architecture. And again, it's not made for today. So sometimes you see the cracks, obviously, like, this doesn't work for today. But no matter that, every time I'm in it, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Even right from the outside, like the way they branded that, there was like a Paris 2024 sign. Just
I've seen
branded on the outside of the terminal.
When I landed at Charles de Gaulle in June, it was already there. I took a picture actually. I was like, wow, this is so
fantastic.
Cool. Yeah, it's wonderful what they've done. Yeah,
and you can only see that if you're a passenger on an aircraft. It's not meant for a highway, people maybe driving on the one side or anything.
Clearly, from the taxiway, I was taxiing to. I was arriving at Terminal 2, and I was like, whoa! Thank God I was on the right side of the airport.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? And I took a few. It's really nice.
Yeah.
That's what comes back to what you said earlier. It wasn't the Olympics, but it was not so much in your face, but it was elegantly done. There was like
That's right. There's a bit of taste as to where.
Yeah. Very French chic again.
And
so how was that Terminal 1? So did you, were you transferring or were you?
No, full arrival on this. Because we spent the next 3 days in Paris.
Okay. Did you use these long?
Yes. The tubes, the escalators going.
Yes.
And I'd done this long ago when I was like a teenager. I remember doing a flight through there. It's something I got with the Jetsons, where you're in these escalators, right? And people are just motoring through.
It's an image of what they thought the future would be back when it was open. I think, what did I say earlier? I think the 70s. Mid 70s maybe.
Yeah.
But it's so great. And there's also the other escalators that are underground, the ones, because actually the circle where you
circle
are
is somewhere else, right?
The curb basically is not directly on the circle. It's slightly, if you want, you have to go underground and go back up. And there's also sets, depending where you are, there's sets of long travelators, not escalators. You're going only in the straight direction, and they go forever. It's something they undulate. You go a little bit up, you go a little bit down, and
up and down. And it has like that kind of dimish light.
Yes.
Where it's like the light is behind like a thing, and it's like that uplight kind of
uplight,
thing.
exactly. That
it has like those long lines from the 70s.
Yes, I love that bit, man.
And it had like that floor, and I think I remember mentioning that I was going to talk about this in Zurich is the only place I recall this, where it has like those little raised circle bump things on the floor.
Yes.
Not like where it makes you vibrate, but it's just like that
slight, yes. I think airports are getting rid of that because of the carry-ons.
Fair.
But it was a feature that was really... Zurich, does it still have it? I was there recently.
I remember an old part of the Zurich terminal had this. I'm like, I remember this floor. This is great.
Geneva, my home airport when I was a kid, had it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's anywhere to be seen in Geneva anymore. But Zurich, clearly last time I did the gates D2. No, I didn't. A lot of works as well there. I think, again, the point, I think I love those, but I think that the age of the carry-on make them maybe
they're destroying all these bags.
Yeah,
slowly.
and also they're making probably there's a little bit of a noise thing at some point. Like if you imagine
the racket.
All over the airport. Maybe like especially imagine the poor ground staff and or the people that work at shops there. They're like all day long having to hear this still. But yeah, they're very
like maybe like a 2 millimeter.
Yes. Guys, it's not like what you see on, now many cities have these for people that are either blind or cannot see well. They're like on the pavement,
like ridges and things. Yeah,
exactly. This is not that. We're really talking about something very subtle. So they still had it at Terminal 1.
They still had it. Yeah. You could be on this moving walk-a-lator thing, or you could walk on this.
I love it.
This floor that had these bumps. So it was amazing. It was nostalgic. It was a wonderful. Until first you have to get the bag, and again everything's kind of in this strange circle thing, and you're fighting through the mobs to get, because like you said, this is not designed for heavy load. Maybe one flight arrives, everyone just simply walks to their carousel, but you're like navigating through, and then to find the cart, and then from there to then link up with anyone trying to meet you. There's different layers and different doors, and some elevators go to some and some don't, and then some staircases go. Very confusing. The doors are marked the same. Like I had a driver coming while I'm waiting at door, I don't know, pick a number here, 8. I'm like, I'm staring at door 8 as well. We're not staring at the same door 8 because there's 2 door 8s, but we didn't know that. It's one on the one layer and one on the other. So yeah, it made for a bit of loop-de-loop and up and down. But
I've had actually what I probably had the same experience, because I clearly remember an Uber telling me, "I'm here," and like, "I'm here too." There's just no way. It was like easy, and because I was like, I cannot be the stupid one. He must be the stupid one. Actually, neither of us were stupid. But in my head, I didn't say that to him, obviously. But I was like, "Come on, guys, he's messing with me. I'm right where I'm supposed to be, and he's not." And he's like, I'm right where I'm supposed to be. Where are you? And probably he was thinking that I was playing dumb and I was still waiting for a luggage or something. So, that's the charm of the Parisian airport experience, I guess, or something.
Exactly. So that was a great arrival. And we then just spent another 3 days in Paris, embracing and enjoying and being tourists and eating the food. But the one highlight, was going to Le Bourget, to the Aerospace Museum.
Nice.
So, my wife's like, I want, of course, you had to morning to do on my own. I'm like, I will go with our son and go and do this thing, because all during the Olympics, I seen it and heard about it. I'm like, okay, this is a great time to do this. I need to go. My oh my, what a wonderful place for a museum.
Really? I've never been. I'm sorry to say to myself that I've never been, and it's not even that far from Charles de Gaulle, because Le Bourget, the airport is still operational, guys. It's a private, as in for business operations. Like if you have a private jet, basically you're going to land there. And they have the Paris Air Show also happens at Le Bourget. Le Bourget is on the way to Charles de Gaulle if you're in central Paris, if you want. And you can see, if you go on Google Maps, Google Earth, Apple Maps, and you can see the reason why they abandoned it is because they couldn't expand. It was already landlocked in the 50s, basically. So at some point, I said earlier the dates, I think Air France left in the 50s, which meant that if Air France leaves, and we're talking the 50s when there was not 33 million other low-cost airlines to fill the space.
The main line goes, it's done.
Yeah, the main line goes, it's done. But I think the airport itself closed for regular traffic, so scheduled traffic, and not private business one, closed in end of the 70s. And I think by 1980 it was fully closed.
Yeah.
And I think this is when they opened the museum, because they had, suddenly capacity, I guess, to... I've never seen it. I know what it contains, but I'll let you tell the audience. I know it contains something that you don't see.
Oh, something so special. And, had I not had a young child, I could have easily spent the entire day there. And that's the type of justice it needs to go. You go in, and immediately it starts taking you through the history of flight. And, we've been to museums and different ones in around the world, but this one, I don't know, the way they've laid it out is fantastic. And even simple things like a display about a bat and how humans learned by studying bats, and how that, the wing and all this kind of stuff, and a lot of historic aircraft. And one thing I really appreciated through the entire experience there is as someone that, grew up primarily in North America, there's a lot of aircraft that I've never seen before or heard about that they have in this place.
France has actually a quite long history of building aircraft. I mean, from early prototypes and crazy people doing crazy things to actually having an industry, which then has been folded into basically what is Airbus today. But yeah, they have a good history. Yeah.
Yeah. So you go kind of through this inside bit. I know what was kind of outside, and you just walk out what was the original terminal. As if you're going to go board a flight. And you're right. On the right side, there's like active private aircraft sort of behind this one fence line. And there, standing in front of you, is A380 number 1. First one. Just sitting there. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. It's like that, lights come on. And you have full reign to go and walk up to and touch and just lean on the wheel if you'd like. The engines are, pulled out. Just the casing is there.
Yeah.
The nacelle is there. And there's kind of like a paper kind of graphic image to represent
what it
but
was. Yeah.
It's there sitting at you and staring at you. I'm like, this is the one that started it all. Like, just here, hanging out.
Wow.
So good. And a number of other smaller jets, older jets from the 70s and the 80s. And then you go into sort of the outdoor military ones, like the fighter jets. They had a water bomber. And then you go around another corner, and there's the Ariane 5 rockets.
Oh, no way. Oh,
sitting
wow.
there, like staring straight up into space. And you walk underneath them, looking up at where the fire is going to come out.
I had no idea they had the Ariane. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they have all these things there. And then the next thing is an Air France 747-100.
Oh, no way.
And you can go in that one.
Oh, that's so cool, man.
Yeah, and they've preserved portions of the aircraft, and it's, I don't want to give away too much of the magic here, but, obviously there's cabins to look at, original seats, dusty as hell. But whatever. It's just there. And you walk down, and there's even one part where they've cut away all like the paneling to demonstrate this is what an aircraft, the guts of the aircraft.
Oh,
like,
yeah, that's a
cargo holds and all this stuff.
That's amazing.
And it has that smell of old plane because this was an active aircraft in its day. It was used. You go through other hangars, and I mentioned about seeing planes that I had not seen before, and there were, I think, aircraft captured from World War II.
Oh, wow.
German aircraft that were there. That there was aircraft there with a swastika painted on the side. That this is the plane that was at that time.
Yeah.
Hangar after hangar, and then came like the hallelujah Concorde times 2.
That's the thing. It has
Two of them. One was like the test one. One was a proper Air France one.
I think the test one that they have is actually the very first they ever built. Not only the test one, is the
number 1.
I think the first, and the other one, I think you're right. I think is a production. So one Air France that was actually flying.
And the way they have it physically parked is amazing. It's kind of nose to nose, side by side.
Okay.
So you walk into one, and I guess I did it the right way. Walked into the test one, and you walk through this, the narrow cabin. It's all the testing stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of just like anything else. And then you pop out the front, and they've built a bridge across to the other one.
No way.
And you walk across between the two Concordes.
That's
between
nice.
the two nose tips, the spiky, all that stuff. And then you enter Air France Concorde, and they've preserved it 100%.
That's cool.
The seats,
that's very nice.
All the stuff. They have mock-ups of the tray table setups and the cutlery and all these things. And you can look at the flight deck. I mean, obviously you can't go in it. You're behind a plexiglass, but you can see all the dials and everything. It's absolutely wonderful. And you walk the plane, and you come out the other end. You stand there and look up. Massive, massive engines that today, even though they're from decades past, are still just wow, awe-inspiring.
Yeah. I didn't know about Ariane. I knew about the first 3. You cannot enter the first 380, right? No, it's just there.
No, it's just there. Static.
But just the Concordes. Of course, we had, when was it? 2 years ago? A year ago? Ed Parsons has visited all the Concordes you can visit ever on Earth. Ed, tell us if was it the best you ever visited? Was it the Bourget or not? But I should go. I should go, man, because I regret not flying that aircraft. I regret that it's not in operation anymore.
So sad when you
I just,
back.
Man,
Yeah.
I mean, it's I must have repeated that line a million times now, so people maybe get tired of it. But Concorde that's the same I said earlier about Terminal 1 in Charles de Gaulle. It was from an era where there was a lot of optimism about the future, that everything will get better, faster, and it was the idea of progress. And you could see it not only in, of course, it was a crazy design that they did all without, almost, there was no computers that we have today. They had some computers, it was a lot of was done by hand. And similarly to Terminal 1, there was this idea of, hope in the future. And that's why now it looks retrofuturistic. You look at Terminal 1, but you look as well at the Concorde. It still looks a version of the future, like an alternative timeline that we don't have anymore. We have
absolutely.
Right? You know what I mean? Like it's still the future. And
you could pull those two aircraft out, take them up to the terminal, load them up, and it would be fine.
Right.
Yeah.
And we went to a world of efficiency. Everything have to be efficient, profitable, and it makes all this makes sense. But things have to be efficient and make money and whatever. But it lacks a little bit sometimes the craziness and the daringness of trying to build an aircraft that would go so fast and cross the Atlantic so quickly, or to do a terminal that would look like some. I don't know. It's just that it feels that
it's an alternative timeline is a great way to put it. That's simply it.
Yeah, that's the alternative timeline that I wish if I could slap my face and wake up in that other timeline, we still have Concorde and the Jetsons. Yeah, but
that's right.
That's cool. That's so cool that they kept the full inside as well. But you cannot sit down, right? No way. Of course not.
You just walk through sort of plexi.
Yeah.
I mean, you could. It's not sealed. Like if you had like Go-Go Gadget arms, you could like reach over and touch the seat if you wanted, or if you want to be disrespectful, you could throw something into it. But
I love the reference. I hope a lot of. I know the rough age of our demographics that are listening to us, so you probably all get the reference. If you don't, you have to Google Go-Go Gadget. But yeah.
And then the rest of the museum, again, if I had more time, there's one hangar dedicated just to helicopters.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
Then all the different military aircraft through the decades, and it just went on and on and on. I was like, my goodness, there's so much.
And again, helicopters, France also a good history. I mean, Airbus does arguably some say one of the best, if not the best helicopter right now. Anyway, this is, I don't want to go there because every time I say something is the best and I get messages from people that don't think that, and then I get lost into arguments that make no sense. Guys, I'm not Reddit, I'm not Twitter, just a guy with my own
guy talking on a show.
though there's a TV, what was it? Oh yeah, Lioness. It's a TV show. It's a TV series on here in the UK would be a Paramount Plus equivalent wherever you are. And at some point, and I was very surprised for an American show written by Taylor Sheridan, was very into Americana, and that's why it's so cool to watch. And in season 2, at some point, there's a mention of a helicopter, and one of the military person in that says the best is a Airbus. And I was like, really? In an American show, they wrote down that the Airbus helicopter is the one that they need? I'm like, really? And anyway, that was... guys,
interesting.
I don't want to have the people from the military and the US military tell me that the show is wrong, because it's just a mention, guys. So let's go back to. So you would go back probably.
I would go back.
Yeah.
I mean, another fast highlight to finish it up is I mentioned the A380. The engine was simply just the outer shell. Yep. Well, the real engine was actually in one of these hangars.
Oh, no way. That's so cool, man.
That you couldn't quite touch it, but it was there and like in your face, the enormity of the Rolls-Royce Trent. I forget the model number now, but it was one of those ones. And it was just great. So yes, definitely recommend it for anyone. If you have time in Paris, you must put this as part of your adventure. So
Le Bourget, guys. I think I will name the episode after that one, which is weird because you cannot. I mean, if you filthy rich and you work in a corporation that is, you can still land there, or just go to the Paris Air Show, or like Vinod, go to the Musée de l'Air et de l'Espace. I think it's called in French, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm. I think that.
Musée de l'Espace.
I think that's the one. Yeah. By the way, it's 3 active runways, so it is. In terms of footprint, it's still an important
3
airport.
Active runways, really?
Yes, there's 3 active runways. I guess that's also the reason why they do the Paris Air Show there, because they can actually not only bring all the stuff, the aircraft that need to be shown to the public and to the professionals, but probably also because they can do demonstrations. They'll have one runway that would, when everything else is busy, you can still do, so Yeah, it's still a busy airport. But in case you have your own private aircraft, you can call Vinod and me. It'll be gladly come with you to Le Bourget.
Le Bourget.
For a weekend and visit Ariane 5 and the Concordes and the first 380 ever. Though I'd be tempted to leave with that first 380 ever. Though actually, I'm sure that one of the airlines, I don't know if you've seen, every airline is so hungry for that. So Lufthansa said during, like even last year, no, that they're putting them all back.
All coming back online.
All coming back. As I said, I think last episode, Emirates has said at least until 2038 we'll have them in the sky, which is long.
Oh, that's great.
BA is about to unveil a new first class specifically for 380. So meaning if they do that, it means that they trust that they will, have it for another.
Yeah.
So maybe one of these airlines will come and steal that, put it together, take the engine from that hangar, put it back on the
roll it over, put it on.
Go. There's 3 runways to choose from. At least there's one. It should be long enough. So just go.
That's right. Aircraft are designed to fly with one engine, right? So.
Right? Exactly. So I'm guessing this is not where you flew back from to go to Canada.
No, we did a straightforward Charles de Gaulle departure. And you mentioned earlier about, the ground crew for Air France they invested in the uniforms. And that is so true. Just at the check-in desk, all of them, it's primarily female, in this case, all looked elegant and put together. But we had a little interesting thing I noticed, again, with the check-in procedure. And you mentioned about the carry-on and how they tag.
Yeah.
So when you go to the kiosk and start going through all the things, it says you can check in your carry-on bag for free. And it won't be part of your thing. Okay. So I think one of the bags I had, I thought, I will punt this in underneath because there's nothing we need in it. And it was within weight.
Okay.
It was fine. So fine, go to the desk, doing all the tagging. I had this stack of tags in my hand. So I'm just starting to go. And she said, oh, that one's for the carry-on. I'm like, yes, it has to go on the carry-on. I'm like, okay, isn't it just a regular tag? She's like, no. So if you're checking a carry-on, it still has to be within weight. It can't be an over carry-on.
Oh, wow.
And they'll catch you.
Oh.
I didn't know that. I was like, I'm glad I obeyed in this case. But actually, no, it was actually over. And she's like, it's a bit over. Can you take... So I took some book or something. I was like, that's fine. So let's say if it's 10... a 10 kilo carry-on needs to be tagged as a 10 kilo carry-on if you're going to send it underneath for free.
So if let's say if it had been 12, to pursue your example, what would have happened? They would have fined you?
No, they would have then said, no, you then have to pay for the extra bag.
I see. Of course, they would have to pay for it. Whereas the free is like, you respected the rules so far, but
Yeah. Like,
it does make sense, but I never thought about it this way.
And it's actually labeled right on that printed bag tag, specifically this is the carry-on one, so that they know that, you've opted to put it in, but it has to be, you can't get around it by overloading your carry-on thing. Oh, I'm going to just check it in for free. Right? Which is normally the case here in North America, at least. At the gate, anyone with a carry-on will check it in for free. Sure, superload that thing to 20 kilos, send it down. No one cares.
I've actually seen that behavior at Heathrow in other airports. I've seen that behavior. I'm not saying that everybody does it, but I've seen that some people clearly have thought it out. Like, my thing is clearly too big, clearly too heavy, but I don't care because they will make an announcement, especially on most of the flights nowadays that are short to medium, long haul, not always. And it worked because I see the guy and
Absolutely.
I was like, I was looking at him rolling this thing. I'm like, this thing it should have been a checked luggage from the beginning, but then it's free. So
So they managed to get around it.
Makes sense that Air France would do it, but I would have never thought about it before you told me. Maybe because I don't cheat, guys. No, it's not true. Sometimes my backpack is a bit over. Did I say that? No, airlines, shut your ears. I didn't say that. Please allow my backpack to get it. Okay.
The rest. Fine, same thing. Take the train out to DE, whichever it was.
Yeah.
But what's funny about the departure area of these sort of semi-terminals, they're not that big in the end.
No.
You kind of walk through the small duty-free eating part, and then you kind of all jam up in the one gator, and they haven't really thought out the queuing space and stuff. But so it was a little bit hectic, definitely a bit hectic getting onto the aircraft.
Yeah, but to be fair, I think Terminal 2 was open in the 82, 84, 85, something like that. So it's parts of them is because they've kept increasing. I think the gates KLM were newer, to E and to F are newer, but A, B, C, D. I think basically what I'm trying to say is that some of it might not have been as old as Terminal 1, but also maybe an era where there was not as much traffic and capacity.
Yeah.
Because I totally see what you mean, because I've been to, what was it, Cathay Pacific, I've been to United, I think, once day, and it's not great, the area to board. It's really, and it's not made for group numbers, and nothing is, the layout doesn't work, especially when nowadays you have airlines, they have like 28 group numbers. You cannot make 28 lines. It just doesn't work, right?
Exactly.
It's still an okay experience, but yeah, it's not. I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but it works, and if you're roll with it, it's fine. But
exactly, don't fight the system. Don't fight it. We said earlier. At some point,
yeah,
it's just like
just buy into it.
Yeah, buy into it.
Flight back was fantastic again. It was just us in economy, and the one thing though that I really noticed is kind of like the nice way to end my Parisian trip is, again, this elegance thing. We noticed it on the safety video. They do this fun thing with like this woman in a red dress.
Oh yeah,
kind of flitting around Paris, and then she goes up this Eiffel Tower, climbs, and you're like, where is this video going? What is happening here? No, sorry, it's not safety video. It's just kind of like a promo video.
Yeah, the promo.
And then suddenly the woman or the dress on the woman turns into the Air France logo, and you have this visual pop just happens, like, whoa, so cool. And I noticed that when I was getting up to go to use the bathroom on the plane, you turn on, you look at that economy cabin, which the seats are all navy. Yeah. Well, the blankets they've handed out are bright red. And suddenly you look at it as a whole, and you just see like these flicks of red in the same way as if it's the woman's dress, and that turns into the logo. I'm like, you guys have thought this out.
They saw this through, man.
Works.
See, that's
yeah.
It's a little thing, but it makes the experience a little bit more beautiful.
Yeah,
I like.
And even the last little thing that they did, which is amazing. Usually, when you get a little thing for a child on a plane, it's like some useless, I don't know, coloring book and some not so well made pouch, and I don't know, some other funny little games. Like kind of Air France gives the kid an airplane. A little wooden airplane that matches actually his train set, and little figurines of ground staff. And it comes in this little cardboard box that opens up to a kind of quote unquote airport. And it has like there's runways. There's like little runway pieces that go with it. And you put it together like a puzzle. I'm like, these guys are brilliant.
This is amazing, man.
Because now I want these for myself.
I was about to say, I want the same. This is really, see, that's a little touch that actually changes a lot to me, the experience of being in an aircraft. And I'm not a parent. I wish I was your kid so I could get that thing. But wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, it was nice. So
clever.
Yeah, it was a beautiful way to round up the trip. So yeah, it was a wonderful European circuit.
Summer of travel. Yeah, that was nice. So now I want to go to Le Bourget. I want to be a kid in an Air France air flight. I probably want to try Ryanair again because I haven't done it in a long time to see if everything I said is actually, because then I'll have people say, no, Paul, it's actually shit and you haven't done it for a long time. This is what
you're going to get on a brand new plane with a brand new crew that's going to be trying to sell everything at you with all the adverts.
But then I have my noise cancelling headphones and I don't really care.
They're going to pull it off from you and just leave it in your ear and put it back.
Man, that was excellent. Thank you. That was a lovely way to. Again, I don't know when this episode will be out. So it's either to end the year or to start the year. I know that you're gonna have other flights coming up because you're leaving in 2 days.
That's right.
Is that true? And then we'll finish. And we already at 2 hours and 20. But I think people are starting to understand our audience that we're going Joe Rogan length of episode, and so you press the pause button. So a few more minutes. Just tell me, where are you going?
We are doing probably the farthest place we can fly. We're doing an Asia run, so we're going for family reunion and whatnot over the holidays to Singapore, to Kuala Lumpur, and to Taipei.
Oh wow,
a lot of heavy flying. With the first one being a banger coming up. It's Vancouver to Singapore nonstop direct.
Vancouver to... How long does that take?
The time block on, I think, is 16 hours and 15.
Oh, what? Oh,
Yeah, and I've been tracking the data metrics on this thing, and the thing has been, I don't know, maybe the winds, but it's getting closer to more like 17, the way that it's showing. Maybe that's what the text...
would that be your longest flight ever if you were...
It is, actually, yeah.
It is.
Yeah, the longest I've done before that was like a 14:49 clock time. So this is going to take the record. So
Who are you flying with?
Air Canada on
Air
a
Canada.
Dreamliner. I'm like, the Dreamliner goes that far? I had no idea.
They're refueling with a KC...
Air to air, yeah.
Air to air, yeah, exactly. They probably refueling.
KC-10 drops out.
Mid-air, exactly. Well, yeah, I've done the longest... I probably did a little bit longer. When Garuda was running London, Jakarta total, I think it was 17 hours and 28 minutes. I must have it. No, I know I have it somewhere written down.
Yeah.
And I think Seoul, JFK, that was also like 17 hours and something. Either one must be the it's long.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. No matter if you're like in the front or in the back, it's just long.
It's just long. Yeah, we're on premium economy on that one, so that
Good.
helps a bit.
So look, don't tell us more about it, because what I'm gonna do, you're just gonna come back and tell us about this Asian trip at some point in 2025. Even though we're maybe already in 2025 by the time you guys listen to this. So I'm gonna run the end music whilst it's been years. I have these new consoles, and I still not sure which button has
Which
the
button
music.
to push? Yeah.
So now I have to do. Look, so Le Bourget. I have to do Air France in business class, like you've done. I have to do the sim thing that you've done.
Yeah.
I have
you get the toy.
need to get the toy. I want to do. I've never flown Air Canada. So I need to do, and maybe, just for the hell of it.
You have to
I'll do
press that button for the third time.
No, but you know what? I never try. If I do that, I don't want to cut the music off, so I'm not going to do it. I don't know if two sounds can. I know it can, but I don't know if I program it that way.
Right.
So yeah. So it makes me very jealous because I'm not. No, I never fly during the holidays. I always stay in London. So for me, it's going to be just. I'm going to fly over tables by drinking too much. Probably that's what's going to happen.
There you go. That
There we
counts.
go.
That counts. Love it.
And guys, happy 2025. It's gonna probably, last comment. It's gonna be the busiest year ever for travel, air travel. IATA says it will be the first time in history that more than 5 billion people travel by air.
Amazing. I love it.
On that, happy flying.
All right. Take care.